What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show. Jorge Ventura, welcome to Jersey, baby. How we doing?
It's good to be here, baby.
A little different than the border, right?
A little different. Haven't been to the East Coast in a minute, man. It's good to be back here in Jersey. Actually, last time I was here, bro, back in 2020, covering some of the business closures here in Jersey. But definitely good to be back.
Great year.
My favorite year.
Good stuff happening around here for sure. But yo, what is this story with you and Sagnik? You just dropped this on me before we got on camera. You guys almost got killed by Mexican cartels in the middle of some Chinese wheat field.
Yeah, me and Sonic Basu were working. This was our very first documentary. We were doing the introduction into the illegal marijuana operations in Southern California in the deserts, and we ran into an instance where we were about to go check out some illegal marijuana grows in a very sketchy area up in LA County, almost bordering like San Bernardino County. And then we got stopped by two Mexican cartel growers in this like F-150. Both guys were armed. The guy in the passenger seat was like ready to go. And what Sonic tells me now is that he basically just thought about his mom because he thought he was going to get blasted. And so that was his last thought. But yeah, man, we've been in some close calls. It's been kind of a wild roller coaster, man, and it really kind of kicked off. I think really with all of us, right? 2020, and now we're here heading into election in like less than 4 months. So it's been a wild journey.
Well, shout out to Sagnik for putting this together. He's the man. I laugh because that dude. He's about all the action, bro. And then he finds himself in these wild situations. He's just a media guy from New York at this point.
He's like 5'2", bro. 5'2", $130.
All right, he's like 5'6". Let's give him a few inches. But the dude finds himself in the middle of the stuff. I respect that a lot. And he was down there making. I think it was 2 docs.
Yeah,
you were working with him on, right?
Yeah. We did 2 documentaries. It was really into this kind of illegal marijuana issue. I'll kind of because it will be all over the place. But basically what happened, Julian, was back in 2021, the border became like a big story. So I started covering the border. At that time, I was with the Daily Caller. And we were, covering it for months, and it was getting hectic. And there was one day where I met, he was a congressman. His name is Mike Garcia. So he represents like a certain district in LA County. And we were in South Texas at this time. So for me, I was interested. I was like, hey, what is a politician or a congressman from Southern California, doing in McAllen, Texas? Because no matter what he sees here, it has nothing to do with his district. He can't do anything.
That's right.
So what he says, he's like, hey, Jorge, because of what's happening on the border, we have a huge cartel issue back in Palmdale, and he explained it. He said we have these Mexican cartels moving in migrants undocumented. They're starting up these what he was calling illegal marijuana operations, and he was saying that they're forcing these migrants, essentially almost like slavery, on U.S. soil to work on these marijuana grows. Brutal conditions, middle of nowhere. These folks can't escape. They have to basically pay off their debt to be in the U.S. So he broke it down. And it seemed like a movie, and I was like, first of all, I'm like, this is not true. Second of all, Palmdale was my hometown. I was living in D.C. at this time for Daily Call, but Palmdale was my hometown. So I was like, I'm from there. I'm from the 661. I literally grew up there. So what the congressman did, he said, look, man, hear me out. He's like, in a month, they're going to have a town hall in Acton, California. So it's a little bit before you get to Palmdale. He's like, head to the town hall and then give me a call after. I said, okay. So I go to this town hall. And it was with LA County Sheriff. So yeah, like the sheriff's there, and there was a bunch of residents from that area, like Acton, Lancaster, Palmdale. And so we're all crowded up in this like little building. And then I just keep hearing story after story from farmers saying, hey, I went to go, down the road to go like grab, some water, pick it up, and we got stopped by Mexican cartel guys, and now they control the water lines. Or like, hey, last week, we were hearing noises like my animals were barking or whatever was going on. And I went out there, and these like Honduran kids are like tapped into my water lines and stealing water. Or like I've been shot at, or like these Mexican guys come. It was all this like story after story. And I was like, this can't be real. Like this is happening on U.S. soil. Mm-hmm. We have cartel activity. Then basically the sheriff was telling these people like, hey, because of where you guys live, you have to be armed, because if you call us, it's going to take us 2.5, 3 hours to get to you. And I just couldn't believe it. And all these people so far have declined to meet with media. Like they wouldn't meet with any media.
Really?
Yeah. So I just couldn't believe it. So I was kind of taken aback. So the first thing I did is I started to do, I'm like, let me see what local media did on these stories. So I looked at local media, and you would just always see like a reporter in a helicopter in LA County, and they'll be like, "Hey, that's a marijuana grow, dangerous, like don't go." And that's like the gist of the story. And there's no way we could get much deeper. So what I did is I approached each resident, and I connected with them on a human level. And I said, "Hey, look, my name is Jorge Ventura. I'm a reporter for the Daily Caller. I'm like, I grew up here. Like, this is my home. Like, I'm a hometown kid. I went to high school here. I went to community college here. Like, this is my backyard too. So like, I care about this." So I think when people saw that, they started giving us the access. So then when I gained the residents' trust to tell us the stories, that's when I called our editor-in-chief back at Daily Caller, and I said, "Hey man, we got a big story right here that if I could break this for us." I'm like, and at that time, Daily Caller they've never produced a documentary, never investigated a documentary. Small digital media company, right? They don't have the funds for it. And I said, "Look, all I need, I don't even need money. I'm like, you just send me Sognick. Give me like 2 months. I could produce a documentary. Just me and him. We don't need money. We don't even need crazy equipment. We don't need drone. Like
you had some videographers, obviously. Like you had some people doing it with you.
Just him. And then the only other guy, and this will be something we'll talk about later, because you'll find this guy's story interesting. And another guy was a freelancer. His name is Eric, that I met at the border. I hired him to be our drone guy, which is just basically my own buddy, just to shoot him some bucks. And just us three, man, we started literally putting together one of the more dangerous documentaries on illegal marijuanas that haven't been touched in LA County. We were the first ones to do it. Not only we were the first ones to do it, we were the first ones to go with the residents, embedded with the residents, get the craziest stories about them being shot at, crazy stuff, the stuff you would only find in movies. So we got all these crazy stories. We got law enforcement side, local officials, but to put the kind of cherry on top, I'm like, the way that we could beat everyone. And then I did this with my guy Eric, is we would do two things, bro. In the middle of the day, we would drive my little Honda Civic in the middle of the desert to the marijuana grows. They're protected by armed cartel growers. And then we would find a spot, and then we put a drone over it. And then boom, we started putting drones over the grows. And we started to put them, boom, really low. So we started to learn the builds. Where would they put the gunmen?
Right.
Like, how big did they grow? And then so I call them day missions. So we kept Sodnick at the house, and only be me and Eric, because this was risky.
Where is this in the middle of the desert? Like, where approximately?
We're talking about LA County, Palmdale, California, Antelope Valley. So, and this is where I grew up. Like, I literally grew up here. So what we would do, bro, is me and Eric would hop in my little Honda, find like a little desert spot where we could kind of be hidden, throw the drone up, and then boom, just started like, and then we would just be amazed, bro, looking at this drone like, how are these operations like we're talking about massive, I'm talking about multiple acres, greenhouses, water lines, guys transporting supplies, gunmen looking out, all happening in in LA County. And we kept throwing them up, so we started doing our day missions. And then there was one where Sonic came up, so it was us three, and we found a massive one. It was like on the border of LA County with San Bernardino. And then it was so massive, I make a joke about it when we did our media run. This operation was so massive, you thought Jeff Bezos and like Amazon were running it. We're talking about it was over 13 greenhouses. And, I mean, multiple acres.
Oh, they had greenhouses.
Yeah, huge. I mean, these are humongous. So I think they were close to like 20 massive acres. So when we showed LA County sheriffs, they said, you guys stumbled on multi-million-dollar operations. So
no shit, Sherlock.
So we threw up the drone. Obviously, we're doing our normal, shtick, throw up the drone. And then we're finally flying it back. And then as we're flying it back, we get in the Honda and we're driving. And then we look into the distance, and I think it was Eric or Sonic. One of them goes, "Hey, like, why is that plane super low?" And because it was far away, and I'm like,
oh, no.
I'm like, that's not a plane. And then we saw it go low, and we're like, oh.
Guys, if you're not following me on Instagram, you can get me at Julian Dorey Podcast, or also on my personal page at Julian D. Dorey. Those links are in the description below. You can also follow me on X at Julian D. Dorey. That link is in the description below. And as always, please smash that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that like button on the video. It is a huge, huge help. I appreciate all of you who have been subbing and all of you who are liking all these videos. Thank you.
The cartel guys then threw a drone and followed me, and then they basically took down my license plate. And I mean, we've been in several of those instances, man. But it kind of happened.
They got your info.
They ended up getting my info. We are on our first week of shooting the documentary. We got into a car chase with one of the cartel guys. When the cartel guys ended up chasing us because we found his grow. So then he hopped in a car with another armed guy and then chased me, Sonic. And at that time we were with a resident. A resident showed us, and the only thing that saved us, man, during this, we were like in it's called like Lake LA, literally middle of nowhere in the deserts. If you're from SoCal, you know what I'm talking about. But we were getting in a car chase in the desert, and the only thing that saved us from literally being killed is when we found the road, and thank God they do this, but in the middle of the deserts out there, bros, all the media companies shoot commercials. So when we stumbled on the road where they were shooting a commercial. So when they're shooting a commercial in the desert, they put cops in the end. So the resident beelines it to the cop and basically does a U and was like, hey man, can we just be here for 2 minutes? We're getting chased by a grower. We'll explain later. So the cop's like, chill out. And then the grower just drives by, and then in the documentary, Sonic does a good job of when the grower drives by, he puts it in slow mo, so you could see the guy like armed. You know, he was after us, and basically,
are you afraid that guy's gonna come back?
Oh yeah, I mean, but we were so passionate. I mean, we were
no. I
hungry about
mean,
this.
now they got your info.
Oh yeah, I mean, now it's scary because now anything could happen. You know, obviously, then I don't post like my family and stuff, but I mean, basically, man, with literally no money, with no help, with no security team. You know, if Amazon did a documentary like this, man, they got a security team, they got helicopters, they got like 5 drone guys. You know, we didn't have that, man. So it's just with hunger, us 3, bro, we put a story together, and we were the first ones to break Mexican and Chinese grows in San Bernardino in LA County operating illegal marijuana grows and stealing water, bro. That's if you don't live in California, you guys don't know, but water is gold to us in the Golden State. So they're pumping water. We have human sexual murders all connected to marijuana grows.
All right,
bro.
slow down for one side.
I get hyped. I get hyped.
No, I can tell. It's also, this is your backyard.
Yeah.
I'd be hyped too. Alessi did a great job pulling up just to show how tight this is for people. This is not far, as you're saying, at all from Los Angeles.
And Alexi, go just a little bit up, bro. So you see, if you guys would also see, Alexi, just go a little bit up. So we're in Lancaster right here. You see that Edwards? So that's another thing, bro, is in our deserts, we have the bases. So those bases, you have military bases surrounded by... So they're surrounded by organized crime, bro. And and the thing is, when we started this first documentary, the girls that we were running into were 70% Mexican, about 30% were Chinese at the time. San Bernardino started seeing more Chinese. But that's the scary part, bro, is that they're next to military bases. We have organized crime. These guys are armed to the T. The thing, and then I know if you're listening to this, you're gonna say, how is this happening? Basically, bro, we Prop 64 in California changed everything. So marijuana was legal, obviously, for a long time. But if you grew marijuana without like a license, it was always illegal in Cali. Like you couldn't do that. But then Prop 64 came in, and then they downgraded that. So if you grow marijuana illegally now, they put it to a misdemeanor. So essentially that sounds great because it's like, okay, less black and brown people in jail, you know, let people grow weed. It's not a big deal. Well, first the Mexican cartel found a loophole saying, wait a minute, we could then now take over the black market. And then basically their job now, bro, is to grow all this weed illegally. They avoid the taxes from California. They obviously avoid any type of oversight. They could abuse their employees. I mean, they literally kill their employees. Some of them are sex trafficked. So they don't have to pay their employees. And all that marijuana is now being shipped here to like New Jersey, New York, East Coast, Oklahoma, and getting pushed. So we also, part of the documentary too, bro, is then speaking to guys who are doing it legally. Like, how are you guys surviving? And they're not. They have to pay their employees. California does crazy taxes on marijuana. So right now, the bad guys are winning and the good guys, I mean, and this is my prediction, bro, from following this, probably in the next 5 years, the legal marijuana industry in California will be borderline destroyed, or like it's not going to exist anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what's kind of blowing my mind about the location here, and the fact that like you're uncovering this right outside of forget that there's even a military base.
Let me remind you, bro, this is LA County Sheriff. So
I know.
They
have jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So when I was down in the Amazon earlier this year with my buddy Paul, he's protecting all kinds of acres down there. Once you get into the Amazon jungle, it doesn't really matter what the borders are. The government can't really do anything. It's a jungle. Like there's nowhere to go. Whatever happens out there it is what it is. So there was a point, like, you know, guys like Paul are on their own, obviously, to try to protect places where loggers and gold miners are coming in and illegally harvesting land. So there was one point where we snuck around the back of like a new base that they were building through the jungle. Like, I don't know how, I don't want to say how close we got, but we were right on top of them, where there was just enough jungle between us and them that we could launch a couple drones and take it over the spot. And then actually, like a bunch of them were away right then, so we were able to drive it down into their little huts and get all the intel there. And this was really cool because it's the middle of the jungle. Of course, who else is going to do it? This is in LA County. Why do you have to take a drone out there yourself as a citizen and take care of this? Well, we could bring, I don't know, 700 SWAT teams right there and take it down right now.
So this is where the documentary gets interesting, bro, in our reporting. So because of that proposition, because of illegal marijuana is now a misdemeanor, just to get a search warrant and all this has now become a hassle for LA County Sheriff. So the sheriff now is going against the DA. Obviously, if you guys from Southern California, you know the DA is horrible. It's George Gascon.
You don't say.
So basically now what the best way that one law enforcement guy broke it down to me is basically what he was saying is back in the day before this Prop 64 is when you had this marijuana issue, illegal marijuana was happening only in public land. So that means law enforcement could go raid. Basically, he was saying when this issue started, it was a national forest, national parks. So California, you didn't need a search warrant. You could just go in there, raid it, and get it out. With Prop 64, what this law enforcement guy broke down to me is essentially you can now have organized crime use the Constitution against law enforcement because now they could grow it on technically their property in the middle of in the middle of nowhere. Now they need a search warrant. It's a whole ordeal. The other thing is these guys are also squatting on a bunch of land out there. So
squatting.
Yeah. So basically they'll find like desert that's obviously been abandoned, and they'll just go in there and start putting shed and just build out the operation, knowing that no one's gonna bother them. And then what they do is by using violence and fear, intimidation, that's how you kind of anyone that could basically snitch on these guys or call, they kind of weed them out. So basically, what was interesting, man, is you got to remember this is happening in super rural communities. So if you have one house taken over by the cartel member, eventually they're going to take over that block because what they'll do is they'll use threats, they'll start to steal your water, and then they'll eventually push you out. What they're also doing, and this is the fascinating the part too, is the real estate aspect. So a lot of the people there that we interviewed, they say, hey, like our neighbor, Johnny sold his house and now it's a grow. That same grower will then approach them and be like, hey, we just bought Johnny's house for whatever. We see that your house is on the market for $300K. We'll give you $420K cash. We need you out by the 1st. Those people are going to take the cartel cash, dude, and they're out of there. So what was interesting about what we're doing is there's really so many dynamics to the story. That's why I'm so hyped, and sorry about them. I'm rambling.
I love your hypeness, dude. This is great.
And that's the one thing you think about too, bro, is also the real estate angle of these operations, of how they buy the properties, how they're they'll use threats to get people out. Then at the end of the day, if you don't leave, they'll just approach you and be like, hey, you're on the market, you're $350, we'll give you $470 cash out by the 1st. So then they're basically taking over neighborhoods. And then so that was our first documentary. It was called Cartelville USA, and we kind of opened up this can of these illegal marijuana operations happening in the backyard, how they were basically using the laws against us, and how people were being sexually killed in the middle of the desert. There was one resident, she and her husband like to take these morning hikes on their hills out there. Oh, no. And essentially they went out there one day and they got stopped by a Mexican cartel grower, and he showed them a picture of their neighbor, and it was their neighbor who went up there gunned down. He was murdered in the truck, and they said, basically, if you come up again, this is what's going to happen to you. We've been watching you. That family actually had a special needs son. So they were like, we know that your son has special needs. We know this. And then they were like, we just don't, So that after that, they're like, we don't hike anymore. A lot of you got to remember too, a lot of people live out there, bro, because they have a different lifestyle, right? They like to ride quads. They do horses. Yes. That life has changed for a lot of people. What makes it kind of sad and the heartbreaking part is just that the American is that like a lot of the folks out there, and I connected with them, they're like old retired, couples, in their 60s and their 70s. They worked their whole life. They want to get away from the craziness in LA. They bought a home in the middle of nowhere. They're riding the horses. And then within 2 or 3 years, they now have literally Mexican cartel armed guys control. I mean, it's literally the Wild Wild West. While me and Sonic were filming it, then every resident we would talk to, we would be like, you guys are armed, right? And I mean, we're not. And they would be like, if you guys call the cops, they're not going to come out here. And if they do, it'll take them three to 4 hours, and you're not gonna have the firepower that these guys have. So the amount of water stealing, man, that these guys are doing is insane. The water lines that these guys build. We interviewed one guy where he had a 2-mile long water line on his property built, and it was pumping water every day.
All right. As someone who's from California, speaking to a lot of people listening right now who aren't and don't understand this, can you explain the water supply in California and how this works and why this is such a huge issue so that we can really understand this?
Yeah. Perfect. So like for right now, bro, we're in New Jersey, right? So like, you could turn on your sink, your water. Yep. It's a normal thing. So right now, California, and this is not new news. This has been going on. So for years, California has been facing a drought. So like every year, our local governments like alert us, like the residents, hey, you could use this amount of water. Do you have this for this? And then if you go over that, we're starting to get penalized and get taxed for it. So these ranchers and farmers, they're in a worse position because where they are in the rural areas, their water is even more limited than us, like city folks. So they're even on a stronger cap, what you would call it. So basically, the city says, hey, because of where you live, you're capped at this per month. You use anything over, we're gonna hit you with a tax.
Right.
So what happens is when these illegal grows start these marijuana grows, obviously marijuana needs the water. What they'll do is in the middle of the night they go to these residents' homes, they'll get into the water line and they'll do an illegal tapping, and then they'll start to pump up water. So we interviewed residents, dude, where maybe their water bill every month is around like nothing crazy, like $200-$300. They have a lot of plants. $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and the water district doesn't care. Like they don't care that you got your water stolen, you got tapped. So then that became an issue. And then what they started to do is in LA County, we have about a little bit over 100 fire hydrants in the deserts. Is they'll go in the middle of the night and they'll legally tap into the fire hydrant, then pump the water and then bring it back to the plant. So actually LA County sheriffs and the firefighters had to go out to all the fire hydrants and then started to put special locks on them.
Isn't that enough for warrants? Like I'm just thinking about this. I'm trying to think like other detectives I've talked with who discuss ways to get in. If number one, look at the electricity bills on these warehouses. If they're That's insane, a big one. You can fucking go to a judge. He'll let you in there. Step two, go look at what they're doing at water lines. Okay, there's fucking 6 fire hydrants that have been plundered within a 10-mile radius. I wonder who did it. Like why is the only thing my mind can get to is that the cartels are paying off the cops.
And that's what a lot of people, allude to. And it's the situation is messed up when you talked about city council, because it's like it'll be like one guy sees it as an issue, and then the other don't see it. I think the assemblyman that we talked to was Tom Lackey from Palmdale. He was the only assemblyman, at least for him, that saw it as an issue. The other ones, the big thing, man, with this is we talk about marijuana. So the thing is, you think weed, it's already like, oh, it's just hippies smoking a couple of joints. That's how we look at weed, right? If I said, hey, these are fentanyl operations, you're like, oh my God, we got to take them down. But because they're weed, it's almost looked at like, oh, it's just weed. It's not a big deal. And people don't know this kind of criminal underworld enterprise that has literally popped up and has now literally taken over the Golden State. I'm telling anyone listening to this, go talk to a legal weed grower in Cali. They're not surviving. They can't make it. They've been trying to write to Governor Gavin Newsom about this. So this is an issue that's been on the governor's desk. So it's been a huge deal, man. And like I said, I'm just a border reporter guy, dude. I accidentally stumbled on this issue, and I'm glad Daily Caller gave us the tools, and then we put on a full documentary. We marketed, we got the word out. And what was interesting, man, is we put the documentary out, and then 2 things happened after the documentary. One was there was a resident that we interviewed in the documentary that was selling their home because of the growth. So we kind of tell their story. At the end of the documentary, they by the time we put it out, they've sold their home and they were headed to Oklahoma. They were headed to Oklahoma. So then one day, the couple's name is Gary and Susan. So one day I get a call. Hey, Jorge, how you been? Whatever. It's Gary and Susan, and they're like, hey, you're not gonna believe what happened. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? They're like, well, we're in the process of moving to Oklahoma, and we're here now. We stopped at a little hotel for the night, just to rest up before we make the final drive. And the hotel is owned by a sheriff. I said, okay. And they said, I guess him and the couple and the sheriff started talking. So the sheriff's like, what brings you to Oklahoma? And they go like, oh, we were growing up in rural California, super beautiful. But then, our hometown got taken over by cartels and this whole marijuana problem. And so the sheriff tells them, well, I hate to break it to you, that issue has reached here in Oklahoma, but it's all Chinese. So they were my first lead into that. So that one. So then the couple calls me, lets me know about this Chinese issue. They gave me the sheriff's name. I said, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. This is something I'm gonna take a look at." And then like another month went by. Then I get a random call from Northern California. It's a Northern California number, so I pick up. It's a former law enforcement retired investigator. He calls me and said, "Hey, Jorge, like, I saw your documentary. It's a great documentary." And I was just like, "Hey, thanks, man." And like, we did it with no budget. You know, we did the best we can to try to tell the story. He goes, "Hey, man, so I saw your documentary. You said that LA County had a little bit over 1,000 illegal grows and that San Bernardino had over 1,500 at that time." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'm in an area called Siskiyou County, Northern California." He said Siskiyou County has over 5,000. And I was like, "Wait, what?
5,000?"
I was like, because I'm like, I must have heard wrong. I was like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You know how like, he's like, I found it interesting in your documentary. You talk about these two counties and they obviously have a lot of grows." He's like, "I think you should come up to Siskiyou because we have over 5,000 of these grows." He's like, "But 90% are not connected to Mexican. Almost like it's very minimal now." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We're now seeing." He's like, "When this problem started in Northern California, it was mainly Mexican." He says now it's shifted to almost all Asian Chinese, Hmong.
All right, question. Because I keep thinking this in my head. We all know at this point that since the fucking 80s, different cartels and different drug organizations have all, it's not to say like there's not a huge market for marijuana and they're not in it. Of course they are. But like their focus is more on the higher margin stuff, cocaine, heroin, obviously fentanyl and shit now. Why are the Chinese getting into weed, the lowest margin business? What and it's also it's huge. You have to make enormous fields for it. It's not to say that you don't have that with other drugs, but like it draws enormous attention and you know, you have to get a lot of real estate to do it. Like why are they choosing this business?
So from our investigations and like the close sources that we worked with, at some point, like, and this is something that we're still working on, but at some point there have been agreements with Chinese kind of, if you want to say organized crime, and then like Mexican cartels, where there was this agreement where the Mexicans are going to essentially let the Chinese have the black market marijuana industry. In exchange, the Mexicans would then get fentanyl precursors. That's what they really want.
Precursors.
Because they want the chemical precursors to make fentanyl. For the Mexicans, they've used fentanyl as a big buck because A, it's super cheap to make. You know, the smuggling they got all that down. So what they want is they want those Chinese precursors from China. What the Chinese then want in exchange, this is from a guy from law enforcement contacts and the investigations we've been doing, and what the Chinese want in exchange is they want the cartels to help them be smuggled into the U.S. undetected, which they could do, and then they want the black market marijuana industry. So there's kind of been this agreement. That's why we've been. And then the crazy thing, Julian, at this time that we're filming this marijuana stuff, I haven't started covering. I mean, I've already been on the border, but the Chinese migration hasn't been the story yet. Like we haven't been hit by that huge wave that we're seeing now. So this is kind of the early stages.
We're gonna get there.
Yeah. So like I said, like this guy calls me. He lets me know about this issue in Siskiyou County, and then so I start to ask him more about like, what do you mean Chinese and I've never even heard Hmong, I guess, you know, and everything. So he breaks it down. He said, "Hey man, over the last few years, we're having a huge influx of Chinese citizens with Hmong citizens move into Northern California. We're talking about communities in Northern California that are like are majority white, Hispanic. You know, it's farmers up there. That's really it, farmers, ranchers in NorCal." He says, "We're having Chinese and Hmongs come in. What they're doing is they're buying what they call them is a property out there, as they call them parcels. They'll buy a parcel, but then they'll also cut it in half and make it like a sub, and then they'll but they've basically been bringing more family members. So basically, in one residence, you have like 10 to 15 Hmongs living in this one residence. But maybe but in paper it's registered as two. Yeah. So he's saying what they're doing is first they started moving them in, buying parcels. In Northern California, you get parcels for really cheap. People are not fighting for parcels in Northern Cal. So the Hmongs have come in. They are buying property. Then they're bringing in their family members. Even now, the Hmong have gotten involved in black marijuana industry. So now they're growing the marijuana on these properties, and then now they're shipping that marijuana to the East Coast. So then this has now started this illegal marijuana triad trade up in Northern California involving Hmongs and Asians and then Chinese. So according to him, is they were having a huge influx of Hmong coming in from Minnesota. So I basically gathered as much data as we could. We try to get it, we always try to get as much residents we could talk to and everything. I talked to Sonic. I said, hey man, I think we need to go up there. I talked to Daily Caller, and then what Daily Caller did is like, hey man, you go up there by yourself for 2 weeks, and then you come back and tell us everything, and then we'll see if we're gonna investigate it. So I go up there for 2 weeks, and I'm used to what I heard in the desert, so I know what to expect, but it was at another level up there. So first, I meet a firefighter, and he goes, hey man, because of the marijuana grows and because how armed these guys are, he gives me a map. He's like, these are all the residents or the neighborhoods we can't go to on a 911 call. So it's like, if there's a fire, we don't even attend, because there's literally Asian guys with like AKs now that they shoot at us. They do. He's like now in America. So the way he explained it, saying the only way they could respond to a 911 call, they now have to call the sheriff of Siskiyou County or whatever, and the sheriff has to accompany that firefighter, or they just won't do it. Amazon, there's a bunch of they broke it down, a bunch of neighborhoods up there. Amazon won't deliver it anymore. UPS can't send any workers up there.
They'll send a drone.
Ambulances. So same thing. Like they got a 911 call. Ambulances can't go up there. So it just started, little by little. And then we met a teacher up there who owned property on a mountain in NorCal. And so she was telling us that she went on a summer vacation. And then during that summer vacation, essentially what happened was a bunch of Mexican and Chinese moved into that property, tapped into the water lines, and then actually camped out there. So they actually built huts and camps on her mountain and tapped into the water every day. So while on summer vacation, she just calls her son. She says, hey, Bobby, can you just go check on the property, make sure, blah, 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 whatever. So according to her son, and I spoke to both of them to verify the story, according to her son, he drives up, and then when he went to go check the water tank, saw like 4 or 5 Mexican guys armed. Obviously, they were tapping into the water line. He just immediately did a U and had to call law enforcement. And then law enforcement went up there a week later and cleared out. Those guys were already out there. So we went up there after to see the aftermath, just to see all the lines. Was interesting to see the huts. So to see how like these guys were living was fascinating. And then the worst part is that she was telling me that at the end of this whole thing, Cal Fishing Game actually billed her for the environmental damage. That's another part of the story.
Oh, they billed her for what they did.
Yeah, because technically,
that's nice.
All of that, because because the thing is, these guys also bring in these chemicals from Mexico that are banned here in the U.S. to put on the weed because they don't want the animals to eat them. So she ended up getting billed for them like over $30,000 by Cal Fishing Game, and it was just like I said, bro. It was just crazy how this just kind of kept opening up, and it was just such a big story that me and Sonic, just like I said, we kept pursuing it. We put a second documentary out from Northern California. That was what I was telling you before. John Norris, who was the original Cal Fishing Game guy. For those who don't know, John Norris, back in around 2003. He gets a call that from a rancher. So you remember, Cal Fishing Game just deals with animal stuff, rancher stuff, nothing big.
It's hilarious how like these random ass government organizations that no one thinks about suddenly like fall into some crazy story like you're gonna tell right now, and then they're like, "Well, it's all yours, boys. Get your guns, have fun."
So John Norris back in like 2003 gets a call about water being diverted on a river from a rancher. So this rancher goes, "Hey man, I have a river here. My animals get water from, but it's being diverted." But he's like, "I've been following the diversion, but it's so far. I called you guys." So John and his partner then follow this diversion, and then ultimately it leads them to a field with 2,000 marijuana plants. And according to John, it was being guarded by Mexicans with AKs in kind of military outfits, so basically camouflage outfits. So they were definitely hiding from some type of entity. So John goes, reports it. They tell him to do a follow-up investigation. They go and they raid it. They take down the grows, whatever. And one thing that John notices really early on is that the amount of chemicals that these guys brought in and all the environmental damage they have already caused. Because law enforcement, because he's bringing in the law enforcement from North Cal, they only care about the criminal aspect, right? But John, as a Cal Fishing Game guy, he worries about the environmental damage. So that's one thing that he picked up on. And according to John, when we spoke, he said a couple months later, he stumbled on a second one, but with his partner, that his partner got shot in between both of his knees. So John, with his partner with Cal Fishing Game, waited for a helicopter to be saved for about 3 hours. And it was then then Ken Cal Fishing Game got together with law enforcement and be like, hey, this is a bigger deal than just water diversions or growing a weed plant. And then John Norris, essentially, this is the first guy to ever start raiding these illegal marijuana grows, and he developed what's called the Delta Team for a Cal Fishing Game, which is essentially a sniper expert marijuana eradication team that goes in there, raids these grows. They're trained to go combat with these Mexican guys, AK-47s, rescue missions, and so I'm in, when I was in college, I found out about John through John. I'm listening to Joe Rogan, and John's on there, and I found it interesting. I'm being a California kid, like, what the heck, cartels, marijuana? But I didn't think of anything of it. I was 22, years gone by. And then John reached out to me because he actually watched our first documentary and he loved it. And then he actually collaborated in the one in Northern California. So the great thing was to have John with us, to have a real expert on the ground. And he could just all the stuff he was seeing, he says that he saw in his early days, but now that it was times at 100, he said the whole growing on the properties makes it just so much harder for law enforcement. And he was I think the other angle too now is that the border wasn't an issue when John was working the way it is now. So just the influx of migrants that these guys could bring in who could work was fascinating. That first firefighter that we interviewed, he actually rescued 3 migrants that were being basically held captive on one of these marijuana grows. So he shared those stories. So just to have John with us was fascinating and grateful for his expertise too on top of it.
What year again did he first?
This was in 2003. And then John collabs with us on this documentary in 2002. So even 19 years later.
Or 2022.
Yeah, 20 like he said, the problem is 100 times worse. Now at that time it was strictly Mexicans. Now you have Chinese. The Chinese, the Asian, and then like I said, we're further investigating. And the great thing with Siskiyou County Sheriffs and San Bernardino did this with us too, is they gave us access on the raids, which was key. So on the day of the raid, it was crazy because we hop in with Siskiyou County Sheriffs and we're driving in the dirt roads, and as we're heading to the grows, all the Hmongs are leaving their grows because they know they're about to get raided. So all these Hmongs are leaving. But there's still workers on these grows. So as soon as we get on a grow, these guys raid it, and there was a couple of workers, they go bust them. And obviously the first thing me and Sonic want to do is we want to talk to these workers because it's we want to find out more on the story, right? It's obviously we can find out as much as we can through law enforcement and all this stuff, but let's talk to the actual workers. And me and Sonic, we met this married Hmong couple who got recruited online, who lived in Minnesota, who got recruited on WhatsApp, and then through WhatsApp got recruited to move to California to grow marijuana, and that they were promised $5,000 a month growing weed. So they basically up in their life, moved to Siskiyou. I mean, this is the middle of nowhere in Northern California. We're talking about super small towns with populations of 600 people. Basically grow marijuana for their boss, they don't even know who the boss is. That's the thing, is these guys who really run these grows are never on the properties. It's almost like a shadow government. So we interviewed this couple and we're like, how long have you guys been doing this? So they've been doing it for 2 months. They've been living in a shack. That's another thing too. The living conditions are brutal for these. Yeah. Many of these workers have died because of the carbon monoxide of the generators. But so they were living in shacks, and we're like, so how much money did you make in these 2 months? I'm expecting to hear 10 grand. Here's the cash. Zero. And they were essentially, what they didn't know is that they were basically being held captive. They still thought they were going to pay. It's dude, they were never going to get paid. And that's one thing that the cop was breaking down that was kind of sad. It was at the end of this whole ordeal, there's the one who's, they're going to get arrested, they're going to get charged, and the guy who's really running this is always going to go untouched, because then for them, they don't care. If this property gets raided, you could just bring in more workers. It's just a crazy ordeal, man, of what we stumbled on in North Cal. We were up in Doris. So Doris is the town right before you get to Oregon, and it was a population
all the way up there.
Yeah, we were. Doris had a population of 1,000 people, and they had 1,500 grows in their town. So they had more grows than people.
Isn't this where is his name David Holtzclaw? Did I get that right? The documentary guy. Didn't he make a documentary on something like this? Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I didn't make that up. No, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, wow. There's so much on the bone here.
Yeah.
To get at. I want to try to break some of this down for people to understand.
I just want to add this last thing.
Please,
just on this. And then, so obviously we produced that documentary, and it did great. But ultimately, man, it led me back, and this is the one that I was more shocked by. But ultimately, it led me back to Oklahoma. So then last year I go to Oklahoma, And then we started basically reporting on Oklahoma right now is not even having, I mean, from what we saw, no Mexican illegal grows. It's all Chinese. So it was crazy.
In Oklahoma.
So it was crazy to be like, you would go, like, we were like it was my first time in Oklahoma. So we would be in like a small town. Obviously, it's majority like white rural farmer towns.
Chinese aren't sticking out in Oklahoma?
Now that, yeah. And then so you're like, you'll be in these small towns, man. And then now now they're getting a bunch of marijuana grows. I don't know if you could Google this, bro, but there was a quadruple. If you want to put like Oklahoma quadruple homicide marijuana grow, but they had the famous one was there was a Chinese guy that he had some workers and I felt like the workers owed him money and they didn't want to pay him, so he murdered 4 people on a marijuana grow. So there's
let's read this real quick for context, just for people. Okay, investigation continues after man shoots, kills wife and 3 children at Yukon home. What we know below is what we know about the case. Suspect. Okay. A homicide investigation continues after Oklahoma City police say a 10-year-old found 5 family members.
Put marijuana farm on there real quick. Put Oklahoma Chinese farm quadruple homicide.
Okay, yeah, let's try that.
See, like, yeah, it's like kind of.
Oh, like the second one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Fox News is covering it. All right. Chinese national accused of murdering 4 at illegal Oklahoma medical marijuana farm, sentenced to life in prison. Okay, go down. A Chinese national who admitted fatally shooting 4 people at an illegal medical marijuana operation on an Oklahoma farm has been sentenced to life in prison. Chen Wu, 47, pleaded guilty at a court hearing Friday to 4 counts of first-degree murder and to 1 account of assault and battery with a deadly weapon in connection to a November 20th, 2022 killing. Prosecutors say Wu, also known as Wu Chen in jail records, fatally shot 3 men and a woman in a garage at the farm west of Hennessy, a town 55 miles northwest of Oklahoma City, within minutes of him demanding they return the $300,000 he had put into the growing operation. Authorities say that Wu and all his victims were Chinese citizens and that the marijuana growing operation on a 10-acre farm was operating under an illegally obtained license to grow marijuana for medical purposes. Okay, so they had it right.
And so when I went to Oklahoma, man, and we further investigated, we found out that there was lawyers in Oklahoma City who were giving Chinese citizens these fake, fraudulent medical licenses to then grow illegal marijuana.
Lawyers were.
Yeah. And then what they'll do is, and then they'll smuggle in, these are Chinese citizens that are smuggled through the southern border, so they're here undocumented, and they're here to work. And many of these Chinese citizens, they want to escape, but obviously they can't. They're basically being held captive. Google this next one for me, man. It's like...
he looks like a real sweetheart.
Yeah, put like New Mexico... Chinese marijuana lawsuit. So for the first time now, you actually have some Chinese citizens that got together, and now I believe they're suing one of the marijuana owners. I think it's Toucan. Yeah. So the first one. First one. Yeah, I think it should be it.
New Mexico cannabis manufacturer files lawsuit against Cannabis Control Division. All right, Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we know there's a lot of drug things going on. Breaking Bad. Today marks 2 years of legal recreational marijuana sales in New Mexico. Instead of a celebration, the Cannabis Control Division is now facing a new lawsuit. A local cannabis manufacturer is suing the state over a recent recall of some of its products. The manufacturer's attorney is calling the recent recall unlawful.
Oh, I think it might be another one. But there's one where basically citizens have got together and sued. But just, this has basically there it is, yeah.
Chinese immigrant
perfect,
workers.
It is, yeah.
Okay, Chinese immigrant workers sue over forced labor at a legal marijuana operation on Navajo land. All right, Chinese immigrant workers allege they were lured to northern New Mexico under false pretenses and forced to work 14 hours a day, trimming marijuana on the Navajo Nation, where cultivating the plant is illegal, according to a lawsuit filed Wednesday in state court. Job advertisements for the operation in Shiprock promised $200 per day, very similar to the story you told about the WhatsApp couple. Housing and food in exchange for gardening and flower cutting. But when the workers arrived in New Mexico, the complaint said their phone and car keys were taken away. Don't you hate when that happens? They were barred from leaving, and in some instances, family members were separated. In a statement Wednesday, lawyers for the 15 workers said the clients were treated like animals and commended their bravery for coming forward. Okay, so they had to get off. They had to get away. Like, that's the one thing. If they're not going to kill... And I'm glad they didn't kill these people, by the way. Shout out for not doing that. But if they're not going to kill these people, what do they think they're going to do? Like, none of them are going to talk?
Well, I just think because they're undocumented, they're probably like, they have nowhere to go, they have no resources and all that, and which they are, right? This is like, first of all, that lawsuit is like the first one I think of its kind, but it kind of shows the trend, right? Where like they get lured in, they're promised this one thing, and then all of a sudden they're held captive and they're working in brutal conditions. I don't know the conditions of New Mexico, but the ones that we're running in the desert, I mean, could you imagine living in a shack that's 110, no water? I mean, it's this all started, bro. Like I said, this was a Californian issue, and now it has spread. Southern Oregon has this issue too, because Southern Oregon, a lot of those guys work with the Northern Cali guys, and like I said, speaking to residents in. Now we have it in Oklahoma, New Mexico seeing it, and now the new state is Maine. And
Maine.
Yeah, so if you want to just type in, bro, Maine Chinese grows, you'll see right now.
They're picking the whitest states in the union.
But bro, but all that weed's coming to here, bro. It's coming to New Jersey. It's coming to New York because these guys are willing to pay top dollar for that Cali tree. And they're always going to buy it through an illegal. They will always go illegal. Why would you go legal and pay even more in the taxes? So
yeah. That's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of the legalization.
So a lot of these illegal weed, bro, in Cali, they pick one guy as a driver, and then that guy's goal is to basically get all that marijuana and then transport it to New York without being stopped by the police.
All right, let's back this up for a minute with something you said a little while ago, because I want to get to the root core of this. So you were saying that in exchange for some of the products to put together fentanyl, that's why the cartels are making a deal with the Chinese. So there was this guy, Ben Westhoff, who wrote a book called Fentanyl Inc. You ever read that?
No, but I have heard of it. I heard it.
So he was on Joe Rogan in like 2019. It was a great conversation. Essentially, this guy was like a pop culture reporter. Like he wasn't reporting on drugs or anything like that. I forget what it was, but he was assigned some story on something maybe in the music industry, and somewhere along the way, one of the people he interviewed made some offhand comment about fentanyl or whatever. Long story short, this guy starts asking him about it, learns more about it, starts looking into it himself. Can't believe what's going on here. Like, holy shit, like this is exploding. And ends up writing this whole book on it. And as a part of that book, Savage, this dude literally went alone to China by himself as an undercover agent and just wanted to see how easy it was to get shit. And it was a joke. He walked out there with whatever he wanted. I can't remember he had to ship it home or whatever, but
it was easy, yeah.
Easy. So some of when you say that, I'm like, wouldn't it be easy for the cartels if this guy's getting it? Maybe it's more complicated. It's got to be more complicated than that. But in my head, I'm like,
probably huge amounts.
But still, like, I feel like there's got to be an easier way. That said, at the same time, the contra argument there is that, given some Chinese nationals or internationals coming in as immigrants, some weed fields is a small price to pay.
And what was crazy, man, is when we were doing the marijuana reporting, I've been covering the border. I was covering the border before marijuana. That's how I stumbled on it. But we weren't hit with that Chinese surge yet. Yeah. And we were putting out a lot of this reporting in 22. In the Oklahoma one, we did it early 23. But then early last year, I get a call from a Texas DPS, which is a Texas state trooper who works on the border under Operation Lone Star, it's called. So he calls
Operation Lone Star.
Yeah, so Operation Lone Star is Governor Greg Abbott's basically him putting the state police on the border, saying, help these guys out, stop fentanyl, stop criminals, get on it. So I get a call from a Texas DPS agent around, this is, I would say, January, March 2023. And he goes, hey, Jorge, I'm working here in the Rio Grande Valley, which is the RGV sector. And he goes, hey, man, for the first time ever, we're getting Chinese in South Texas. And I'm like, interesting. He's like, but it's not just the fact that we're getting Chinese. He says, we're looking at our numbers. He says, we have a 900% explosion in Chinese national now apprehensions in Rio Grande Valley, Texas. So I said, he's like, I think you should get down here if you can. So we get down to around McAllen, Texas, like I said, early 2023, and we look at the numbers, and we saw that like I think in all of last year, Texas got like maybe 10 Chinese the whole year, and then now we're seeing that in 1 month they got like 1,100, and it was like kind of consistent. So that's where the guy came in. Like I said, we're seeing a 900% spike. So we hit the ground with him, and we're doing our thing, and boom, we start running into Chinese guys. And I was like, I couldn't believe it, because I'm like, he's so right. Because at first I'm like, it's got to be rare. We're not going to see any Chinese. It's going to be like Venezuelans as always. Nope. In McAllen, running into Chinese to Chinese to Chinese. And so first, man, obviously we're trying to put an investigation together. Obviously, we don't speak Mandarin, so we're going to have to use Google Translate and things like that. So we started piecing up things. So one of the first things that we learned instantly, this is through Texas DPS intelligence too, is that the reason why the Mexican cartel loves the Chinese migrant smuggling is because the Chinese are willing to pay cartel up to 35 grand to be smuggled into the U.S.
Whoa.
Where a Venezuelan, the most they could probably pay is maybe up to
5?
6 grand. Yeah, like in that range, they're not getting up to the tens or whatever. So then you have that aspect where these guys are willing to pay 35 grand. And then one thing you notice straight off the bat with the Chinese is that they look clean. Like they don't look like they trekked through a country. They're not, like when you run into a Venezuelan or any other nationality. I mean, they trek through Mexico. They've been living on the street, whatever. They look completely clean. Clean luggage, shoes, outfit, clean. So, what we learned is that first we learned about the price tag. So we started learning about that. Then I started doing interviews. See, that's in Maine right here. You guys see, Justice Department says Chinese cartels may be taking millions off illegal cargoes in Maine, dude. So then we started doing interviews on Google Translate and about, how are you guys getting into Mexico? What's the apparatus here? Because every nationality is different of how they get into the U.S. So we started learning through Google Translate with the Chinese. We're thankful that they were just open with us. What the Chinese were telling us is they have to fly to Ecuador because Ecuador does not require travel visa from Chinese citizens. So a Chinese citizens, if they want to come into the U.S. in this migration journey thing that we're seeing, is through smugglers, with Mexican smugglers, with smugglers also in Colombia and Ecuador, and through WhatsApp and through the Chinese one is WeChat, is they basically got coordinated in all the directions and tips. So basically the goal for Chinese, you first fly to Ecuador. Ecuador does not require a travel visa from a Chinese citizen. So it's not even a hassle. You fly right in. Once they fly into Ecuador, smugglers, and it's already coordinated in their chats, will then get them to Neocoli, Colombia. From Neocoli, Colombia, they have hotels just for Chinese migrants. So
Oh my God.
Yeah, so then the migrants will stay there in Neocoli, Colombia. Some will go through other different parts, but mainly they have to get to Neocoli, Colombia. From Neocoli, Colombia, they get on boats. I don't know if you want to just put this on Google Maps so you could see it. Just put like Neocoli, Colombia, Chinese or any of that. So from there, the Chinese get on boats. Those boats will take them to Central America. They'll basically get to Panama. From there, the Chinese are going through the Darien Gap, which is, I think your viewers probably know, it's probably the most dangerous journey in the world, according to the Panamanian government too.
Why is that though?
Because all the kind of like narco criminals that control that jungle. It's just like the stories that we hear from interviewing migrants, the amount of dead bodies, the women that are constantly raped there. There you see a lot of the trees, so that's where you see like the trees with all the women's underwear there. I've done interviews and seen these videos myself to verify where migrants are literally walking over dead bodies in the Darien Gap, even kids, which it's tough to see. So it's super dangerous to go through. But the Chinese will take a boat from Neocoli, Colombia. They'll get to around that Panama area, and then from Panama they will go through the Darien Gap on foot. So even the Panamanian government, if you look at their records, has a record number of Chinese nationals because they have it registered of going through the Darien Gap. Once they go through the Darien Gap, we'll talk about this later too, but Nicaragua plays a key role in our immigration crisis because Nicaragua allows irregular migration to the U.S. and they know it too. They'll allow the Chinese to go through. They'll make it obviously to Guatemala, and they'll get to Tapachula, Mexico. So once they cross into Mexico, the first big border town for them is Tapachula. Technically, migrants are not allowed to go past Tapachula without a travel document because then they're technically in Mexico illegally. What Mexican officials are doing, and they're playing a role in this migration crisis, is they're issuing migrants, I'm doing this in air quotes, a humanitarian visa pass.
Oh boy.
So this humanitarian visa, normally it goes for 30 to 60 days. So this humanitarian visa technically it allows you to be in Mexico for 30 to 60 days and allows you to travel. The only reason government officials are issuing these travel visas is because they know these people are not going to stay in Mexico. They're headed to the U.S. So basically saying, here, just go. Just get to the U.S.
Dump it over here.
So Chinese migrants are giving these travel visas, and all the nationalities, other too, but we're just talking about Chinese right now. Is they're giving these travel visas. From there, the Mexican smugglers through WeChat and WhatsApp have already coordinated their travel path. So the majority that we're finding out right now are either from Tapachula will get into Cancun or will get into Mexico City. From Cancun to Mexico City, they'll buy flights directly to Tijuana, Mexico. From Tijuana, the smugglers will then meet them at the airport, and then they'll take them an hour out of Tijuana in an area called Tecate, and they'll cross illegally into the area that you saw me earlier in, Jacumba Hot Springs, right out of San Diego. So that's kind of the what we learned through our interviews was this all starts in Ecuador. They up to 35,000 they're willing to be paid, and then as soon as they get into Mexico, government officials issue them that travel visa, so then they're freely allowed to travel. And then the smugglers have already coordinated the flights. They'll be like, hey, from Tapachula, we need you to make it to Cancun or Mexico City. And then from there, they'll get to TJ right out of Tecate, and then into Jacuma Hot Springs. And that's kind of the migration trail for Chinese right now.
It's interesting that it starts in Ecuador. I just had Luis Navia in here. I think you were saying you checked out that episode. So one of the things he was telling me, I can't remember if he talked about this off camera or on, but either way, he's really wired in to this day to where shit's going down and whatever, because like he's worked with the government forever now. And he was like, Ecuador is a fucking mess. He's like, that's the next like cartel gang takedown spot. And I forget some of the details he was telling me. I think obviously some of it had to do with their government or whatever, but that's interesting that China would pick that as like the jump off point. And
some Chinese men actually fly to, first they'll get to Istanbul, Turkey. And then some are getting issued fake documents in Turkey, and then will then fly into Ecuador.
How do they get issued fake? Like, is it like ID chief?
Yeah,
like what are they getting?
Well, it's literally like fake passports to just bypass, literally just getting on an airplane. And then I mean we find this more later in the reporting, but this, like I said, back in 2023, this was early on in Texas. Okay. So we learned about the Chinese migration. Like I said, we learned about how they're coming and little other things, which we found interesting. And then late last year, early this year, it just made a huge push into Tijuana. So then we started going to Tijuana, and then we started learning more about how the cartels were smuggling the Chinese there, making big bucks. But one thing that we noticed on the Tijuana border particularly is that all the Chinese will destroy their documents on the Mexican side or right on the border. So then when Border Patrol agents apprehend them, they have no documents. The vetting is super difficult for Chinese, because one thing you guys have to remember, if you're a Border Patrol agent and you vet these guys, you could really only go off information in the U.S., which if these guys have never been, you don't have that.
But what about the migrants though too? A lot of them haven't been, right?
Yeah, but this is particularly just the Chinese. The other thing here is, China's government does not share a database with the U.S. So if you're a Border Patrol agent, and let's say you come across this guy from China, and he's a communist soldier over there, or whatever the case is, you don't know. He could be a criminal in China. We don't know. So when we do the vetting, we don't know. So then we were in that area, Jacuma Hot Springs, and reporting on all this Chinese movement and Chinese migrants and stuff, and we speak with sources inside Border Patrol. One thing that they tell us, they say, hey man, just letting you know, like, we're getting so many migrants, and with the Chinese, he's like, we're essentially releasing these guys in 72 hours into the public. So you have Chinese citizens coming from, and all over the world right now, like some flying in from Istanbul, some from China, some will fly into Thailand, and then to Ecuador. We don't know who they are. They're not being properly vetted. These are Chinese. This is technically like a foreign adversary. And we're releasing these Chinese citizens into the public within 72 hours. And we don't know what these guys are doing. We don't know anything about them. Many of them now, dude, are getting involved in the marijuana stuff. The other one, like, I haven't done any reporting on this, but I know Dr. Phil pointed it out, was like the Chinese setting up, I think, like bases, or setting up next to military bases. So you have that issue as well. It was just all this, but the weird thing too, man, like I said, from a border report aspect, is just seeing them destroy the documents. Cause it's like, it's like, why would you do that? It was sketchy. The one that I also found is because I discovered those humanitarian visas that they've been issued. Some of the Chinese citizens have actually, that we discovered, have been issued permanent residency in Mexico. So technically, you technically found asylum, because in U.S. law, if you apply for asylum in another country, you're good. Like you can't even apply with us. But we have no records of that, man. So this is a huge national security, kind of issue. I don't know if you could type it really quick, bro. I think it's like put like Chinese U.S. military bases. But that's the thing too, man. So if you ever come down with me, dude, to San Diego border, it's just eerie, dude, to see them destroy their documents, destroy and all that stuff.
See them doing it sometimes. Yeah. So I had Nick Shirley in here recently for episode 214. He's a YouTuber, does pretty much all
he does great work.
He
does great work.
Yeah, he does a really good job. Does a lot of.
That's what I was talking about right here, dude. These like Chinese-owned farms are popping up all over, and they're like right next to military bases.
See that? All right.
And that's one thing.
Put a bookmark in that for a second, because that's gonna be my question on what happens here. Because you mentioned something Nick did. You talked about like inside of 72 hours, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
The destroying the documents is very sketchy, is sketchy to say the least, and like sinister in a lot of ways.
And you just point out, bro, I've come across Venezuela all over, Venezuelans, Colombians, Cubans, every nationality. They don't do this.
Right. This is like solo.
Strictly a Chinese thing.
Hey guys, if you have a second, please be sure to share this episode around on social media and with your friends, whether it's Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, doesn't matter. It's all a huge help. It gets new eyeballs on the show, and it allows us to grow and survive. So thank you to all of you who have already been doing that, and thank you to all of you who are going to do so now. So Nick was able to recover the directions that a lot of these guys are coming here with, which are written in Chinese, and he had it translated into English. And we're not going to pull it up and read the whole thing. That was in episode 214. I want to say that was like an hour 40 minutes in, hour 45 minutes in, something like that. But like the layers to the directions of what to do the minute you get to the border, and every single thing that happens all the way to they go to fucking Kingdom Come and we have no idea in the country where they are, is insane. They have contingencies for contingencies for contingencies where they're also using our legal resources against us. So let's pull it back to the map that you were just talking about right here. Whatever this is, and I'm less familiar with I haven't seen this map before. I've heard what you're talking about, but I got to look into this more. They end up at places like this because we lost them 12 layers ago, because at part 7 of the directions of 24, they were good. Like they were set. They're free. No one even knows who they are, to your point. Like, it's crazy because we don't have their database. We have no idea who they are.
And then, if you wanted to do another tab, bro, because this is actually interesting. I'm glad that you reminded me of this part, bro, is put like in this other tab, put like San Diego migrant street releases. So this is the other part, bro. So when you're in that San Diego sector, we'll be in Jacumba. You run into migrants. Those migrants, because of San Diego so overwhelmed, they're going to be released into the public within 72 hours, right? So then obviously as a reporter, we obviously are going to go to the migrant drop off. So one thing that we were there, we see a lot of these guys, instantly street release, and then they immediately go to the San Diego airport and whatever. So I'm spending time there. There's a bunch of cab drivers. Obviously, these guys are like immigrant cab drivers. So I'm talking to these guys. These guys are like from Somalia, and obviously these guys wait there and wait for migrants to because they're making money, right? Dropping these guys to the airport. Nothing wrong with that. So I'm talking to the Somali guys. I'm like, hey man, like, how long have you guys been doing this? Blah blah blah. And the Somali guys are pissed, and they're like, hey man, you need to start looking at the Chinese. I'm like, what? Why? What do you mean?
Stop looking at us.
Yeah. Because I just creating small talk. Because it's basically like, if you're a migrant, you basically literally are you enter into San Diego legally, and then you go into a holding facility. Then within 72 hours, because they're so overwhelmed, they'll put you in one of these buses, and then on the morning they'll literally just release you with no direction. So then many of these migrants, they just go to a taxi guy and be like, just take me to the airport or whatever. So I'm talking to the Somali guys about this, and they go, hey man, the Chinese have their own drivers. And I'm like, what do you mean? So he's like, look at the next bus. And then he pointed me to a street that was down where we were at. So basically down the street from this drop off is a whole lane of just Chinese drivers. Now I don't know what's going on, but there's a coordination here. So basically every other nationality, when they get dropped off, they literally don't know where to go. Like, so they go up to a taxi guy, they'll go, whatever. The Chinese go directly to the Chinese driver. And one thing that we notice is because we'll kind of walk up with them, is they go to the Chinese driver. The Chinese driver will have a packet for them. So they have US dollar bills.
A packet.
Yeah, so they'll give them US dollar bills. They have cigarettes, and then they have a SIM card for the cell phone. And then they'll go with that driver straight to LA, according to the Somali guys. And what they were saying is, the reason they were mad is they're mad from a business angle. They're saying, hey man, these Chinese guys are doing some illegal stuff because they're not even taxi drivers, but they're here loading up. So we obviously we kept reporting on the street drop-offs, but one thing that always just caught our attention, and we didn't really fully understand, is how the Chinese had their own drivers. These guys had their own package for them. They had US dollars waited for them, and then they had SIM cards, and then they would go straight to Los Angeles. So it kind of like a little bit more where you say, bro, there's just a lot of coordination with the Chinese nationals, and I'm sure what Nick saw, what we saw too in our reporting is these guys have a extremely detailed plan. Like they know what happens in the U.S. They know that they're not capped. They know that if they fly to Tijuana, they're all good to go. And now they're all over the U.S. Some are involved in this, this military base stuff with the farms. Others are in the underworld with this illegal marijuana stuff. It was like 2 or 3 months ago. I don't know if you could Google this, bro. There was like a Chinese citizen. Put like Chinese citizen El Centro, California. There was a Chinese citizen, bro, that he didn't stumble. He was found on a military base in El Centro, and like they were, it's like all these stories. There it is, like
all right, Chinese migrants suddenly found on Suddenly found on California military base. The arrest of a Chinese national at a Marine Corps base in California spurring many questions. The presence of Chinese nationals on American soil has been on lawmakers' radar for months, given the recent influx of migrants at the southern and northern borders and exacerbated tensions with the Chinese Communist Party. Republican Senators Joni Ernst and Marco Rubio are among nearly 36 members of Congress who have requested visa changes through the Department of Homeland Security. They told Newsweek earlier this week that Chinese nationals' ability to enter U.S. territories like Guam through the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands without proper B-1 business or B2 tourism visas should be immediately addressed with reform.
Bro, think about this story, dude. Julian, you and I have been living in the U.S. forever. We probably wouldn't even find that military base in El Centro. Like, and then this Chinese migrant who, first time in the U.S., is able to locate it, and then look at that. Imperial Valley. So
the El Centro sector, located in Southern California's Imperial Valley, has existed for nearly 100 years and covers 410 square miles and 70 miles of international border. It is home to 4 border patrol stations in the cities of El Centro, Calexico, Indio, and Riverside. I think we need a few more. 4? How many miles does that say? 410 square miles. We got 4 offices. Malaka, let's get fucking 100. Jesus.
Bro, and then read that paragraph right here, bro, about, California
has experienced an increase in Chinese migrants in recent years. There were approximately 15,700 Chinese migrant encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border in roughly the first 3 months of the current fiscal year, which began October 1st. Those numbers already surpassed the approximately 14,600 encounters in the entire 2023 fiscal year. Holy shit. Whoa. Okay. So
I know, right, dude? It's like so many layers.
There's a lot of layers, but there's 2 things you said back in there about them that makes this a lot easier. And unfortunately, you could use the phrase looks matter, right? They don't look like migrants and they have resources. They have money. So they can pay for it to get here, and then obviously they use our system against us. Now, if I wanted to be really simple and really broad thinking and probably land on the Captain Obvious scenario here, I would look at a country like China of, well over 1 billion people, enormous marketplace that has significant economic ties with the United States companies and markets, obviously, many of them. I would look at that and say there has to be quite literally a follow the money, in the sense that you have public companies who are incentivized to have Chinese buyers who are backed by the Chinese government, can't do anything without their permission, and the public companies who are literally, in some cases, like small countries themselves, in their own interest to meet their quarterly report every fucking quarter, have to go to their politicians to say, hey, don't change this fucking shit right here. We need that money coming in. So they pay off the politicians, who they then put in office to win elections on Tuesdays and Novembers, and then suddenly you have shit like this happening, because now they're like, oh, well, that's what Chinese government wants. If we spend on someone else who's not going to allow that, maybe they'll stop economic ties with whatever company we are.
Dude, it's just a complete disaster, this Chinese thing. And then, for a guy like me, bro, I was never even supposed to. It started off with I was already reporting on the border. Then we stumbled on, then the marijuana took me on a side turn. And then it kind of tied me back to the border with this Chinese stuff. And then now we're here where the Chinese numbers are ridiculous. They're gonna keep coming in waves. The other aspect is, if you're the cartel in Mexico, is you're making a killing now, because these guys are paying $30,000 to be smuggled in. You're getting your fentanyl precursors. It's just going super smoothly. And then I spend a lot of time in Tijuana. You go to the Tijuana airport, you think you're in like Shanghai. It's literally just Chinese nationals flying in, and then where they're going, man. And it's just it's just this kind of crazy cycle, and the U.S. government or whatever immigration policy wants to act like it's not happening. And look, this is only one angle of all this. I mean, covering the border, bro. We could we could dive into other things. We've been
we're gonna.
following the Venezuelan and then the Tren de Aragua gang. But the Chinese, to me, one is one of the more fascinating angles just because of the relationship we have with China and the fact that we literally don't know who these guys are, dude.
You know what's crazy? It was like 2 years ago. I would still say like spring 2022. You couldn't talk about China. I was like, don't talk about that. And then suddenly, sorry to people who've heard this on other podcasts. I've told this story, but I remember one of the pure Washington-y, moderate but totally statist type think tanks. Maybe it was. I don't want to say the name. I can't remember what it was. But one of the think tanks in Washington released some paper that then got a lot of tweets and traction in maybe June 2022. Basically, and I read it, and I'm like, wow, this is hardcore, like against China. And I called up Danny Jones from Dan Jones podcast, my boy. And I was like, yo, I think the China conversation is going to become mainstream. And I'm telling you, within like 6-7 months, suddenly it was like YouTube wanted content on China and everything. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so part of me goes, okay, now it's starting to become more bipartisan that people are looking at this. And as we can see, like there's congressmen who are commenting on this stuff or whatever. But we're still letting all this happen at not only the rate it was, but at a significantly higher rate. And that part I still can't really make sense of. Why do you think if guys like you, and there are more people like you who are talking about this, Nick Shirley's one of them, obviously, like you guys are on the come up, but there's serious people who've been around for years reporting on this stuff, talking about all this, giving evidence to it. We see mainstream media outlets reporting this. Why is it getting way worse? Why are we not curtailing this at all?
There has to be something there with the Chinese guy. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Back in and then after we put out the first documentary on the marijuana stuff, I was invited to Washington D.C. to speak with congressmen and everything.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and they wanted to speak to me. They wanted me to present them my reporting on the border, which I did. But mid convo, I switched it to the marijuana stuff because I was like, the border stuff. You guys know about it. You could turn on the. This is the stuff that we really got to get after. I'm like, I don't know if you guys know this is happening in. It's one thing to always make fun of. Oh, that's liberal California. It's in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's in Maine. It's in New Mexico. It's now in Southern Oregon. And it just has exploded. Almost like these guys are laughing at us, man, because they're making so much money in the underworld. At the end of the day, if someone gets arrested in these, talking about the marijuana stuff, it's these guys who get like recruited and then never get paid. The big bosses always get away with it. The Mexicans are laughing at us too, man, in their criminal underworld with working with the Chinese because they're making a killing off smuggling, getting a bunch of these guys in. It's just like a complete disaster. I don't know where this goes. I don't know how this stops. This is gonna be the other problem too, man. Is China gonna be even accepting? It's one thing to let's say we apprehend someone who's in the country illegally. Is their home country even gonna take in the deportation flight? Like right now,
is it gonna take in what?
A deportation flight. So right now, U.S. and China don't have an agreement to be actively taking Chinese nationals who are deported. So then you have. Because we're running in that issue right now with Venezuelan nationals.
Hey, dump them in the Indian Ocean. Don't do that. That's a joke. Just to be clear. Please don't do that.
This whole thing, man. Yeah, it's been just a complete disaster. I mean, we'll kind of see where it goes, but like you said, it's become a little bit more mainstream. I heard about the Chinese farm thing from Dr. Phil's talking about it. So that's
Dr. Phil's talking about a lot of shit.
He's talking about you can't get more mainstream than Dr. Phil. So
Dr. Phil's having a wake up Dr. Phil. I have no idea what's going on there, but
these
suddenly
past 2 years he's just like
I'm like, wait, you're doing a lot more shit that's not doctor stuff, but okay. But yeah, I mean, I just. It blows my mind when you see the evidence guys like you are able to just capture. There's sometimes with an iPhone, like, oh, look, here it is happening again. And yet, I guess because people aren't there, there's enough that they go about their lives in the other, 40 states that are unaffected right there. And it doesn't get through enough. But now you'd think with YouTube and Twitter and all these things to be able to get the word out. I mean, I see so many of these. It's like, even if you say, okay, 50% of them are selectively edited.
Yeah.
50% of them aren't, bro. Like, it's bad. Like, some of the videos Nick gets of just like, people just walking across the border, like right through a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
And we'll be down there, man, they'll like not only walk through it, but they'll be like sometimes they'll be like FaceTiming a family member while they're. You've seen those? Oh, dude, that's the ones that get me, dude.
It's like, wait, which data plan are they on now? Did they cross over into the U.S.
They're like
data
wave
plan?
at the agent, and then Border Patrol knows like they're not even scared of us. They want to see us and stuff.
Well, actually, that's something that you're really involved in, though, that I think you could educate a lot of us on. Nick was doing a little bit of this, but I think it's something a lot of guys, especially coastals like me, don't think of. But when we're looking at the Border Patrol, we think like, okay, people standing on the border with a gun, and if someone comes across, like, you know, they say you're arrested, or they push them back on the other side. But that's not what they're being told to do. Like, I heard you say something earlier about Border Patrol agents where you were saying, what the fuck did you had such a great phrase for it at lunch.
I know exactly what you, so basically what we're doing, bro, is obviously we'll talk to Border Patrol and obviously being there. So this is the big switch that I kind of want viewers to kind of get in their mind. So under Trump, you know, if you're a migrant, you cross illegally, and you see a Border Patrol agent, you would be scared. You don't want the apprehension because you're going to be sent back, whatever that process is. Under Biden, that has changed, where migrants want Border Patrol because they know that they'll be processed and everything. So after years of this policy, I've been speaking with Border Patrol agents, and
they want them.
So because for me, dude, because back in 2021 when I first got called to the border, I didn't understand it either. Because I'm thinking the same thing. Like, you see an agent, you run away. It's almost like a cop, right?
Yeah.
You're breaking the law technically. So when we were down there, an agent was explaining to me my first week. He said, no, man. He's like, under this administration, when they cross, they're looking for us because they know once they find us, we do the apprehension, and then they're released into the U.S. in like 3 or 4 days. So, and I remember I was like, really? And then I remember being down there and we ran into like a group of 300, and the group like was telling me like, where's the agent? We want to go to the agent. And I basically got into the agent, and like he said, they do the apprehension, and I'm sure they would be released. So then I've been speaking with agents, and then because morale, as you guys can imagine, is as low as it could be. I mean, if you can't, so two quotes always stick out to me. Is I spoke to one agent who says, basically, I'm a human smuggler now.
That's what it was.
Where he was like, I'm not protecting my country. I basically, literally, I'm bringing in illegals into the country, and I just do that. And then another agent, this one stood out too. He was just like, because he was feeling so defeated, and I'm like, man, just to kind of talk to me how you're feeling, or the role, or how's it transformed. He's like, look, basically, man, the best way I could put it is, I'm an Uber driver. He's like, I literally wait on the border when a group of migrants come. I get in my white van. You put the migrants in that van. You take them to a holding facility or a process facility, whatever. And I just repeat that for a 16-hour shift. So then these guys is, first of all, mentalities, morale as low as it could be. Border Patrol, this is a super sad stat too. They're like killing themselves in like I think the highest levels ever.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and then you got to imagine it too, man. And this has happened to me as a reporter too. Is like when you're down there, dude, and you're seeing this amount of bodies, you're gonna run into some real sad stuff. So like, these guys have run into like teenage girls have been. Babies abandoned, kids abandoned, and I know probably like a lot of them feel guilt. There's probably like a guilt factor that they probably have that they can't really help them out, and they probably seen the craziest stuff. So I know a lot of these guys have now like killed themselves. A lot of these guys feel their job is like worthless. It was like 2 years ago, Mayorkas, I believe he was in Yuma, Arizona, doing a meeting with Border Patrol agents, and I remember this story because my friend is the one who got the audio leaked to him. One agent like stood up to Mayorkas and said that like evil happens when like good men stand down and do nothing, and that's what he felt. So that's these guys are going through it, man. And like I said, I'm a reporter, so I only see. I mean, do I spend a lot of time on the border? Yeah, and I've seen some sad stuff, but I'm only there a fraction of the time that these guys are there. These guys probably seen way more. So all that plays a role, and I mean, just talk about the human side of it, bro. Like even like back in 2022. I was in Eagle Pass, Texas, and in Eagle Pass, they had the Rio Grande, blocking Eagle Pass and Pay This Niggas, right, the river, and we would go report there, and I remember looking at the current, and I'd be like, oh, this is easy, like I could go through this easy, and the agent goes, hey man, he's like, once you get in that water, that current's gonna sweep you. And then, so what I started to do, man, is like I would follow big groups in Mexico. They would get in the Rio Grande, and I would get in the water with them, like me and my cameraman, because we wanted to feel it too. I wanted to feel it, as a reporter, to be like,
holy shit.
And he was right, bro. We're seeing this water sweep grown men, kids all the time. And then, so we started putting this story together. Basically, this area of Eagle Pass. This is just to share like kind of the human side, and this to kind of share what Border Patrol is seeing. But this story always stood out with us is it got to the point in that area, bro, with the Rio Grande, with the current, and we got to see it ourselves, is the drownings picked up to 1 a day. So basically we would do, man, is we would go embedded with the Eagle Pass with their Maverick County constables and everything. And so every day we were with them, they'll pull out a body, they'll pull out like an adult when they could be a kid. One day they're pulling out like 2 or 3 in a day.
Oh my
and we're talking
God.
about, these are people in a small town. They're not even used to be seeing the amount of deceased bodies. So they're pulling out the bodies, and we were the first reporters to break that story. Say, hey guys, like, everyone get caught up in the political, right, left, right, Republican, Democrat. I'm like, at the end of the day, like, no matter how you feel,
Yes.
Brown kids and adults are dying in these waters. Like, they're getting 1 a day. And so we start talking to the constable and the deputy, and I'm like, what's the next step? Well, he goes like, look, Jorge, we have a local cemetery here, but because we're getting so many drownings here, the cemetery is out of room. So basically, we have to call in the state of Texas to send a freezer trailer, and then there's now putting deceased bodies in the freezer trailer. And the other challenge now is they still have to identify these bodies. As of right now, they're all John or Jane Does or baby John or Jane Does. So me and the constable, we go to the local cemetery in Eagle Pass, because he's like, hey man, I think you need to see this for the story. So we go to the cemetery, and dude, it's a full cemetery, and it's just PC pipes, because they don't even have tombstones. It's literally like the little like PC pipes. And then so we start walking and start putting the cameras, and the constable says, look at the names. And then he was right. It was John Doe, Jane Doe. It'll be like baby John Doe, baby Jane Doe, baby John Doe. It'll be like August 17th, August 23rd, September 1st, September 7th. Just
a literal graveyard.
Little graveyard. I'm like, and so we start, because I'm with the constable, because he's the one who has to, end the justice of peace. And he's like, look, man, the problem that we have is we're such a small, poor community. We have to pull the bodies. We then have to do the identification, and we now run out of room at the cemetery. They basically had to call Abbott and be like, if you don't send a freezer trailer, we don't know where to put these bodies. So then they had the freezer trailer down there, and then the constable opened it up for us. So we got to see it.
Oh, you saw it.
We saw it, and then dude, just seeing everything was like, it was just insane. And I was just like, what?
Now you're a journalist, but
Yeah.
you're a human first.
Oh yeah. The kid stuff is
how
brutal,
do you
dude.
even look at that?
It's the stuff. I mean, what anyone did is the kid. Like the thing that broke me, man, in person was seeing like a baby John Doe and baby Jane Doe. Like I couldn't fathom to like kids drowning. And the thing is that it made it more real for me as a journalist, because I went in that Rio Grande, and I went in there with these groups, so I know the current and I know the situations. And just imagine, and then, like I was talking to the sheriff, and the sheriff was like, man, like, he's like, my deputy's like, I got to give him, we got to like have we have to send him to like the University of Texas for mental health evaluations. He's like, dude, we're not used to seeing these amount of dead bodies. Like, this is not even human. Like, we didn't sign up to be in a war in Iraq. He's like, we're averaging, bro, a drowning a day. And this was in Eagle Pass, Texas. And I can only imagine, man, what those sheriffs are seeing every day, Border Patrol agents are seeing, every day. Like it's just like not even the one that still kind of stood out to me, man, and just like on a human level, because we're on the subject, was it was last year. We were down there for that, like I was telling you, man, we were in McAllen for the Chinese story originally, and we did the story, but we were down there, and we run across like a woman and this kid, like almost like by themselves in these bushes, and the lady runs up to us, and she's crying, and she goes like, hey, like, this kid is not my son. Like, I found him, he was completely abandoned. The smuggler abandoned him naked. He was naked. We're like, what? She's like, he's naked, he's suffering, he's cold, he's shivering. So it's like, I gave him a blanket or whatever. And we go up to this kid, he's like 4 years old, and he's like freaked out, obviously, and like we're obviously Texas DPS is gonna take him in. But the kid had writing on his hand, and like all right here, and we look at it, and it says, it was in English, dude. It says,
oh my God.
and it says like, take me here, and it was a Louisiana address with a phone number. So then we take a picture of it.
That's human trafficking.
He's being human trafficked. So we take a picture of it, and then Texas DPS like takes him in, and we're freaked out because like I've never. This is only my covering the borders was my second time coming, running into an abandoned kid, but young as 4. My first one was 10 years old, but he was 4, so it just hit different. And just to see like the writing to a Louisiana address, so we took a picture of it, and like we ended up doing the story, and then my producer hits me up and was like, "Hey Jorge, like she's like, what do you think about doing a follow up call on that number?" And I was like, "Ooh," I'm like, "We could give it a shot. I don't know how this is gonna go." So we went in like to my hotel room. We had our cameraman put the cameraman on me, and then I called the number, dude. And then what was sad about it is like the guy on the phone was acting like his uncle, and like but didn't know where he was, and was like, we're like, and then we kept pressing. We're like, why would you send him by himself? Like he literally was found naked. Yeah. If this other migrant woman doesn't found it, this kid's dying. And the guy like danced around it, then he like hung up, and then it was super effed up. And then like we know, dude, at the end of the day, when this kid is released, or they're gonna connect him to a sponsor, he's going to that Louisiana address, and like that's like one of many. I don't know if you could Google this headline, bro. So this is not even a right wing thing. I believe Axios or New York Times did this story. The U.S. government, bro, has lost 85,000 kids in this system of this system of unaccompanied children coming.
I'll bet that's a low estimate.
And that's probably low. That's probably a low estimate.
It's probably way higher than that. So,
it's sad, bro.
When I hear shit like that, and I think about the fact that it's year 2024 and we're supposed to be the best country in the world, it makes me sick. Because Alessi had actually recommended a miniseries that I watched like maybe a little less than a year ago, called 1883. You ever see this?
No,
Taylor
no.
Sheridan. He's the guy who did Yellowstone.
Okay.
Which I've never seen, but I've seen some of his stuff now. I haven't seen Yellowstone, but he's amazing. And so he wrote this miniseries that was a far prequel of, I guess, the family that's in Yellowstone about how they ended up in Montana. And it's basically like they were taking German migrants from, I want to say it was Texas, up the Oregon Trail.
Oh, okay.
And it just shows their journey. And you see how much, it's not that crazy long ago, but it's a long time ago, right? 1883. And it's very historically accurate. You see all the different ways these people could fucking die every day. And one of them was they simply had to cross a river with their carriages and horses and luggage and shit. And motherfuckers were drowning. And it's like you're watching a TV show, even though it's historical, and you're like,
yeah.
And you're telling me that in 2024, the same fucking thing is happening right in front, as if they have a front row seat of the Border Patrol agents who can't do fuck all about it. Dude, that is sickening to me.
It's heartbreaking, man. And then and like I said, in that Rio Grande, I've witnessed it. Like, because like I said, first when you first approach it, man, it looks easy. It's just like, oh, I could swim across that. But yeah, once you get into the current, and then as a journalist, man, I put myself in risky situations because it helps to enhance the story. So we went in there too, and just to see, like I said, just talking to those guys and finding out about them pulling out the like a body per day, the scene, like the cemetery. Once you see that on the human level, the news makes you more angry, man.
Oh yeah,
because then like you hate that, like whether it's left or right. You're only getting the talking points on immigration, and I wish I could like take an American with me, just down there and be like, I just need you to see this, and then I don't need you to have an opinion on it, or I need a hot take at the end of it. I just need you to see it, and then realize this is happening on U.S. soil. And real early on in my reporting, man, I would always say the word humanitarian crisis when I talked about the border.
Love
and
that.
People have asked me why. I said the reason why is it's a humanitarian crisis, but second is, as Americans, when we think humanitarian crisis, we think, oh, well, that happens in Yemen, or that happens in, like right now, it happens in Gaza.
Right here,
or here.
motherfucker.
It's happening right here, man. Yeah. And then it makes you more, particularly for me, I'm being Latino as a Salvadorian, it makes you more angry because there's a certain group of politicians that like vouch for like, we're the party or we're the people for black and brown people. Yeah. And then when black and brown people are actually dying on the border, they all disappear because of who's in office and all that. So it's like once you're down there, you forget about it. And then shout out, just to the men and women down there, the sheriffs, the deputy constables. Those guys are never gonna get like the recognition they deserve. But they're out there when no one's looking. When we already moved on to the next news story, they're out there, dude, pulling out another body, of the Rio Grande. And then in about a week or two, man, I'm about to be embedded with, right now in New Mexico, right next to El Paso, Sunland Fire Department, little fire department. Right now, getting five to 10 calls a day on migrant rescues of migrants dying in 110 heat, degree heat, triple digit heat, with no one could find them. I was speaking to the fire chief like 2 days ago. Within a span of 2 weeks, they had over 6 deceased bodies that they had to pull. So you have Sunland Fire Department going through it. I was just literally in that El Paso Sunland Department area, and we were embedded with Border Patrol in the storm drains. Like, this is something I didn't even think of.
Storm drains?
Yeah. So El Paso has these storm drains connected to Juarez.
Can we pull this up? El Paso storm drains, Juarez?
And so we went in bed with Border Patrol agents in these storm drains, and they were explaining to us how smugglers bring in the migrants and sometimes completely abandoned kids. So then, but we're in these. That's exactly what I was in. Exactly what I was in. I was in that, like, maybe if you guys look at my Instagram post, literally 2 weeks ago, I was in those storm drains, and they were explaining how, like, dude, they'll just leave kids in storm drains, like. That's just insane. I mean, out of all the ones, that's insane. But they'll leave them in storm drains, in complete darkness. We're in the storm drains, dude, and we're dying, and we have equipment. We have like air monitors, we have helmets, we obviously have lights, and we're dying in there. They leave kids with no equipment, and these kids are going through storm drains in complete darkness. And then Border Patrol agent, just to save these kids, it's also almost like a suicide mission for them, because they have to go in there. Once they're in, there's no cell phone service. So it's like, if he needs help, if he needs assistance, no one knows. So it's like all these little things, man, that I think a lot of people don't get to see about the human aspect of this story. That I think in 20 years is going to be a historic. I mean, it's going to be a story of just like how this all occurred, and I think we're going to be feeling the repercussions of it.
We're going to be feeling the repercussions of it for a lot of different reasons. But you keep on bringing up the political divide on this, and I think it's important to. It's the 500-pound elephant in the room. I think it's really, really important to address this and talk about it, because the way our country seems to work, it's stronger at other times with this than certain times. But you see the pendulum when it comes to the top end. Ever since World War II, it's like Democrat, Republican, like it kind of goes back and forth. And now we're at a point where the division is so much that those swings are like this.
Right.
So right now we're coming up on, the end of this current 4-year term of Biden, a Democratic president, where obviously it goes without saying we've seen unbelievable records of the migrant crisis at the border. Like, it's just statistics. It is what it is. He's been a failure on that front. And he followed up a guy Trump, who put a lot of his campaign, his initial campaign, and continues to do it on the border, who also had less of these problems on the border and was trying to fix some of these things allegedly. Now, you get two sides of the coin here. You kind of said it yourself a few minutes ago with the left, but you get on the left like, oh no, we're supposed to love and let them come across and everything. But then the minute you tell them about the humanitarian crisis we're creating by letting fucking millions of them come across with no plan and no overwatch on who's bringing them across, and you tell them about all them who are dying in these graveyards, I mean, it's disgusting. They don't want to hear about that, right? So they preach with love,
right?
But then when you go show them an opportunity to show love, they go, well, that goes against our political abilities. You know what? I'm not down there. I'm sure it's not that bad anyway. You're overreacting to it. Then on the hard other side, and I mean the hard other side, you'll have people who are maybe cloaking this in an ability to be completely isolationist and be like, we don't want any goddamn immigrants in here, right? And that's where it actually, I'm not saying like the right wing's all like that. They're not. But there's extreme elements who are more like that, who are like, they're replacing us and shit. And so you kind of, it's like a shit or a fart. They're both bad options, right? And so what I like about you is, number one, you can relate to it a little bit. You're a second generation El Salvadorian. You are the product of the American dream existing here and coming here and doing things the right way. And we'll get into your story as well a little later. But you see the humanitarian crisis. You see that this has to stop. You also see that we do have to put some type of system in place so that this can't happen in the first place, be it a border wall, whatever it is. And yet you kind of have two loud voices who, if they have their way, it's either going to get in the opposite direction really bad or worse in the current direction we're at. How do you grapple with that as a human being, not a journalist?
That's. But I think for me, man, I think at the end of the day, I'm just gonna do the best storytelling that I could do. I'm not out here to be like I'm gonna change the world or I'm gonna change I'm just gonna do the best raw storytelling that I can, and at least if only 10 people watch my stuff, I at least want those 10 people, bro, to walk out with something and be like, I view it different, or that just, I didn't see it like that. That's why I always try to lead with the video because it's more power, it's more powerful. But it's like, you could only do so much. So, I mean, for me, man, I just want to show another side of it. And also not be sensationalize everything. And I think that's what makes my kind of reporting unique. I kind of got thrusted into because of where I first ever got my internship. I got thrusted into the conservative world, so I have to navigate through that, and then navigate through this kind of mainstream where like liberal mainstream still controls the majority of mainstream. So it's like you're almost like dancing on this line,
right?
And I think for me, man, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, where it's like sharing stories from the ground, being a human. A lot of not all, but like some conservative journalists, when it comes to the issue of immigration, they become numb to the human part, where then the people they see just become the political ploy.
Numbers.
The numbers, and it just becomes like their argument. Which for me, and I think what helps me is having the parents from El Salvador, having the immigrant background. I just can't ever view it like that. So I'm always going to view it as a human aspect, but we're always going to keep it honest with the real issues. We're always going to hit it with the political angle because you have to keep the people in power accountable. But it's just kind of showing kind of everything, man. Storytelling, like, hey, this is the effects on the politics and this and this and that, but then showing like just the real life human aspect. At the end of the day, these people are just like us, whether you're left or right. You run into a 4-year-old by them, with that's gonna break you. It's gonna make you look at it different. So I'm just gonna like lead with that as the best that I can. And I think as of now, man, like the audience appreciates it because like the messages that I get, I get people that are like, hey man, I thought this about immigration, but I view it like this, or like, hey, right. I voted for this guy because I thought this, and then I saw your thing. I had no idea it was like that. The stories that probably always gonna have the impact is when you show the kids. I think that's when people gravitate the most. But just always the reminder, bro, to not turn numb to it, because I think, and I've seen that into people, and I don't blame them. We work in a crazy industry, so sometimes you can, but I think for me, is always try to keep myself human and be like, I don't want to get too lost in the sauce. I would say I still want to be human. I want to feel something, and at the end of the day, man, I'm here to tell a story. It's not my agenda, and I think people appreciate that left and right now.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I hope you maintain that, because I know, I don't do what you do. But I've talked to a lot of guys who, not necessarily with the border, but are doing hard-hitting stories and looking at stuff. I can imagine as a human being, when you really get deep on something, right? You know all about it. You're there. You're seeing it all the time. You're trying to yell to the mainstream people about it. Guys like me who are just out here clicking this stuff online, like on Twitter, and saying, no, look, this is what it really is. It can get frustrating maybe when people don't listen. And I can imagine it's tempting to want to, let's use your word, sensationalize some things. And I think it's if you haven't indeed done that, it doesn't appear you have. I think it's really good that you haven't, and I hope you don't, because I also happen to think a story like this, I don't think it really needs any sensationalization. No. I think it's exactly, if you're, for example, that graveyard scene, if you can even call it that, whatever that is. You can't even put that on a video because
exactly
it'll get taken down from everywhere. But like, what more do you have to do? Like, that's what it is.
No, you're right, dude. And it's insane, man. Now we're here, 2024. We're close to this election, and yeah, man. I just been the past 4 years as a journalist has been crazy, because you said the pendulum swings have been so. Insane. I wasn't even a border guy. Just it kind of stumbled.
How did you get into the border?
So basically for me, man, is back in 2020, I was still a student journalist. I was going to College of the Canyons in SoCal, and nobody in LA was given an internship at that time. And through his name is Sagar and Jetty on Breaking Points.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah.
I don't know him, but I know of him well.
So Sagar at that time was he was with The Hill, and he was doing his Rising show. I was a big fan of the show, and I reached out to Sagar on Twitter. I was like, "Hey man, look, I'm a college kid in California. Like, I need an internship. I feel like I'm really good at what I do." And then shockingly surprised, Sagar actually like replied. He like put me on a phone call. And he kind of vetted me, I think, and then he thought I was legit, and he's like, "Hey, let me connect you with the Daily Caller. I think you might be a fit there." And I started doing interviews with the Daily Caller, and then at that time they were like, "When could you come out for the internship?" And I said, "Well, technically I'm in school, but I could come out for the summer." But it's still, it was COVID, so it was crazy times. So they were like, "Come in the summer." They're like, "We don't know what your internship is gonna look like because we don't have a newsroom because of COVID, but we need you in DC, and it is gonna be unpaid." So.
Gee, thanks.
So I said I could come in May, and the only reason I made it work, and I don't, this is the Salvadorian thing, but a bunch of my family from El Salvador is in Virginia. I don't know why, but a lot of Salvadorians moved out there. So I had an uncle who was like, "I got a basement for you, live in the basement during your internship." So I flew out there, flew to in DC. I believe it was like May 22nd. 2020. I'm bringing up the day for a reason. I'll show why. So I come out there, and then my very first day is I'm just editing other people's videos for them. So I'm editing other news reporter stuff, and it was like May 25th, I think it was. It was like my second day of my internship.
George Floyd.
Yeah. So it was May 25th. I'm at my uncle's, and I'm editing videos, and I have live streams up. Minneapolis Police Department releases the George Floyd video. Obviously, that night, Minneapolis police gets like burned to the ground, like the whole city basically. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching it, and I'm obviously shocked as I report. I'm like, "What the heck?" And then the next day, people don't remember this, but like obviously I do because it was just insane. But the next day was around 2 p.m. And then the riots started in LA. So that's when like the video started coming out of like guys going into Gucci stores, breaking into Gucci stores. There was like I think it was like on the 405, there was like a LAPD car, and the guy was like on top of it. I remember just watching like, this is, I can't believe this is happening in the US, but I don't think much of it. And then like I keep editing, and then like I had this female friend who felt really bad for me because she's like, "Hey, I know you're new to DC, you have like no friends." She's like, "Come with me to this party. You need to mingle." So I go to this party. I'm doing my thing. I'm drinking a little tequila. Yeah, feeling good. And then so during this time, what I don't know, because I'm trying to like get at this girl, I'm drinking tequila, I'm feeling myself. So what I don't know is that around 2,000 Black Lives Matter protesters are at the White House. And they're fighting Secret Service, and they're fighting local DC cops. And it got so rowdy that they had to put Trump under a bunker because they actually thought for a minute that the White House was about to be breached. So, and I don't know this is going on. I'm having fun. I'm not checking Twitter. And around 1 a.m, I get a call from a producer, and I'm like, this has to. First of all, I just think it's a mistake. It's super late. But I answer the phone, and he was like yelling. He's like, Jorge, like, no reporters answering the phone. No one's answering the phone. They're like, and he's just like,
this is your moment.
Yeah. He's like, they have Trump under a bunker. He's like, there's a riot. He's like, we need a, he's like, we need a report on the ground. So I take an Uber, and I get to Lafayette Park is front of the White House. And it's chaotic, man. They're fighting Secret Service. DC cops are like hitting folks. You get the riot shields out there, pushing the crowd back. And then Trump's under a bunker at this point. So I get there, and I'm trying to get my phone on this like selfie stick to start reporting. So I'm trying to get my phone on this jam thing, and this is technically my first night reporting ever for a media company. Remember, I'm a student reporter, so I'm coming from college. And then next to me was a guy at that time I didn't know his name, but next to me was Leland Vittert of Fox News. So Leland was getting ready to do his live hit. I think he was like gonna go on Brett Baer or whatever. He's gonna go live on Fox News National and probably do the walk and talk, show the crowd and everything. So Leland's getting ready to go on live. He has a security guy's camera, and I'm getting my phone jammed on this thing, and I see the whole crowd turn, and they go, "Hey, that guy's with Fox News. He's a white supremacist. Get him!" No. And then I just see this whole crowd turn to Leland and start punching Leland in the back of the head. They're wailing at the security guys. One of the protesters grabbed the camera, slams it on the ground, kicks the cameraman. And these are big security guys, but dude, it's a mob of people. So each way, these guys are getting wailed. And then so I snap my phone on finally, like, da-da-da-da, and I start filming That's my video. See Daily Caller.
Oh, this
that's right,
is
Ventura.
you,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I start
full screen that?
start filming Leland getting assaulted. So at this point, they kind of break away and they're gonna make it to a DC police line. So this is me as a reporter. This is me as an intern, and that's my hand right there. I'm doing the narration. See how they're assaulting them. This is at the end of the assault because they finally break away. So Leland gets to a DC police line. I run right behind Leland. I go, "You have no idea who I am, but I'm an intern for the Daily Caller. I just filmed everything that happened to you." So then Leland turns to me and he says, "Thank you so much. I owe you." He's like, "Anything you need in DC, you let me know, kid." And then he gives me a business card, and then it says Leland Vittert, Fox News anchor, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then what I didn't know is then I went on Twitter and I put like #breaking. Leland Vittert, Fox News anchor, blah, 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 assaulted in front of Lafayette Park. Send the tweet out. Don't think nothing of it. Take the Uber back to my uncle's house. Wake up the next day. I go to Twitter first. My Twitter DMs are like, I have over like 30 of the blue check messages. So it's like NBC News Primetime, Fox News Business, Fox News Primetime, CNN Business, NSBC, Young Turks. It's every media company saying, "We're running your story, crediting Jorge Ventura, running your story, crediting Jorge Ventura, running your story, crediting Jorge Ventura." And it just exploded. And I'm like, what the heck? And so then my editor-in-chief of Daily Caller basically calls me and says, "Hey, man, we brought you in to edit videos. You just broke the biggest story in DC as an intern on your first night.
You're hired, kid."
They were like, you could do whatever you want to do, just do it. And I said, "Okay, cool." So then, I remember that night, the next day was like a Saturday, Sunday, and there was riots in Baltimore. So then I was like, "Can I go to Baltimore?" They're like, "Yeah."
Sure,
so I went to Baltimore, and covered the riots. And then on Monday, dude, this was just like a cool thing as a news student reporter. So on Monday, dude, I'm watching Tucker Carlson because at that time during the riots and everything, dude, Tucker's monologues were on fire. He was just tearing the country. So I'm researching another story and have Tucker Carlson on because I'm it's Monday. Let's see what Tucker has to say. And Tucker always starts the show with a monologue, then he gets into the news of the day. But Tucker doesn't go into a monologue. He goes straight into the story. He goes, "Fox News, Tucker Carlson, welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, over the weekend, our colleague, Leland Vittert, was assaulted." And I go, "There's only one person with the video." He goes, "Daily Calls Jorge Ventura captures the moments." And boom, goes into my video. You got to remember, dude, I'm a student reporter, my first night interning, and now the #1 show in primetime news, Tucker Carlson, that gets millions of views, rated #1, is now running my story in the first minute of his show. So they ran the story, and basically, bro, my company was like, "Dude, literally, you could just do whatever you want this whole internship." But what we didn't know at the time, bro, is that the riots were going to go all summer long. So my whole internship and how I got started in reporting was because of George Floyd. So then I ended up immediately after that, we went to Atlanta, covered the mess in Atlanta. I don't know if you guys remember, but
that was where there was a dude who got shot.
He got shot. And then they created. Yep. I think this was right before Seattle, but Atlanta created their own autonomous zone, but it was only black. It was only blacks. So we would go. I was with another reporter. His name is Julio Rosas. He was with Town Hall Media at the time. So we would go report, and we noticed we would go report. We would be fine, and then we noticed a white photographer came, and he was taking pictures of the burnt down Wendy's. And they'd be like, "Hey, where you from?" And I forgot what media outlet. And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, no whites in here, bro." And then just starts wailing on him. And then me and Julio are like, "Oh, this is gonna get a little sketchy." And then on the third day of us being in Atlanta, what actually stopped it, this is actually really sad, bro, is that area got crazy, because it created an own autonomous zone. The thing about Atlanta is these guys are armed to the teeth. These are gangsters. So they were basically backing up the cops. Anyone there couldn't enter. And on the third day, there was a drive-by shooting on the Wendy's. We were there, and there was bullets fired at us when we were there. So we survived the drive-by. But the next day, they did another drive-by, and they killed an 8-year-old girl for the Wendy's. And then the next day is when Georgia came in, and we're like, "Okay, we're setting in National Guard."
Yeah, because that was a good idea.
That was a good. But it was immediately after that, man. I don't know if you remember the whole Chaz in Seattle.
I remember.
So then. We were, we
went there.
We went to Chaz.
And you were in Chaz.
Technically, Chaz was my very first time then working with my boss. And my boss at that time was a guy named Richie McGinnis. So it was my first time like working with him, because at the previous times I've been covering these riots a little bit just by myself, but now they sent in Richie with me because they wanted us to be a team to watch each other's back. And Richie comes out with one of the best tactics, bro. And this came out later in the Rittenhouse trial because Richie had to testify nationally. And I'll break down.
What do you mean tactics?
So let me explain. So basically,
Please.
bro, during this time, one thing that we learned early on, because remember they started off in D.C., then it led us to Atlanta, then in Seattle. But one thing we learned early on was that the Black Lives Matter protesters would assault any media member. So basically, like on the first night, one thing I know, obviously the Fox News thing happened, but the next day there was another riot in DC, and I went out there, and I noticed that there was like, maybe like regular white guys, photographers for like Washington Post, whatever, would be taking pictures. Even like a Black Lives Matter protester would come and like smash the cameras and like stomp them out, like assault them. So I would basically, because I was the first reporter for the Daily Caller, kind of on the ground seeing and stuff, I would then report it back to the group. I said, hey guys, we're gonna have to change up the tactics. Like, we can't go in there like just filming and just thinking people are gonna talk to us. I said we basically developed kind of like a rule book. So the first thing we did is we agreed that we would dress in all black. So just like the protesters. So we would dress all black. We noticed that the protesters would wear all black with no logos. So we make sure that we would dress all black, no logos. We started to buy body cams. The other thing too was we wanted to disguise ourselves into the protest. So we made a rule that our first hour on the ground, no filming your first hour. You're just involved. So like if the protesters are doing the all cops are bastards, all cops are bastards, we're in there with, black bandanas, all cops are bastards, all cops are bastards. And then like people will talk to you, be like, hey man, where you from? Oh, I'm from California, man. Like F these cops, bro. Like we're gonna burn the system down, burn these pigs, like George Floyd. And people are like, all right, yeah. So then
every keyword, keyword, hit them all.
So we would start to do that, and then Richie's the one that came up with the because I remember we were in Chaz, and then so we were getting ready, right? We're putting the all black clothing on, all the disguises. Richie goes, hey, let's go. He's like, I have an idea. Let's go to the liquor store. I'm like, why? He's like, let's just carry around a 30-pack of White Claws and cigarettes and joints and just basically be acting like them. He's like, by doing that, they'll let their guard down. They'll never think we're reporters. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. He's like, trust me, it'll work like magic.
Cigarettes and White Claws.
And then yeah, I'm an intern, bro. So if I'm over here like, well, if my boss is telling me to get a little drunk on the job, I'm not gonna like not do it. So like we would go with these groups and just be like, man, F cops smashing White Claws. Hey, you guys want one? Yeah. Here's a White Claw, bro. Yo, you guys want some cigs? Yeah. Yo, and then Richie, would have like a joint in his ear. Yo, you want a joint? And then these guys would all bring their guard down, bro. Then we would be getting all crazy info. We would be able to film when like we couldn't.
Now, how would you do that? How would you commence the filming? Because now it's like, wait, hold it right there.
Yeah, we call it from the hip. So we do the shooting from the hip.
And they don't see that?
No. And the thing is, a lot of times, like once you bring the guard down, they're kind of like they'll just like kind of let you by with a lot of stuff.
Wait, let me see your phone real quick. So you're like this, like and they're not noticing.
No.
Just like this.
Because after that, bro, their guard's down. Like, and the thing is, we're technically getting drunk with them. Like we're drinking with them, we're smoking with them.
Which means you're probably shaking it a little
bit. Yeah.
Too.
So they're not worried, or like if something crazy with the cop is happening, we act like we're filming the cops and not them. Like, get this cop on camera, man. Get this cop on camera. What's your badge number? Act like we're gonna, like report them. So we developed these tactics early. So we were the first reporter group out of all these media companies to do that, and then we were the first ones to cover the riots from the real angle. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, now it's 4 or 5 years later, it's safe to say, like, oh, BLM, they burned building now. It's like, yeah, it's safe to say it now. It wasn't safe to say it when we did it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So we were the first reporters that, and then, because basically we're like, as an intern, I'm learning quick of like how things are working. So it's like, we were the first reporters to develop this, and then also how to beat the mainstream. So one thing we had to rely on was great video, straight to Twitter. Great video, straight to Twitter. So anytime we would get, burning buildings or business owners assaulted that happened in Seattle, we filmed a lot of that.
Gotta get it before.
We got it to video, and then we started to change. I want to say change, but we played a narrative into how Black Lives Matter protests were being viewed early on. Like at that time, they had all the media apparatus. I remember CNN was sending the reporter, and the CNN guy would do the hits of like
mostly peaceful protests.
He like
in
would
front
come
of
up,
a burning fucking building.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like you didn't really have to beat them because like
they beat themselves.
The images
bro.
were beating themselves, bro.
So that was key, bro, because we played a huge role into another narrative of how BLM protesters were being viewed early on, and that started to shape the public's view of like, wait a minute, this is not what it was. And then the thing is, as a Hispanic, I'm always looking for like the Latino angle. And one thing that I noticed when I was in Atlanta or Seattle is like, it'd be like Latino business owners who'd be like, hey man, I'm from Mexico. I've saved up like 15 years and I opened up my own bakery, me and my son. Why did they burn my building down? I don't even care for this. And then so we started sharing those stories, and little by little, dude, we started to combat the mainstream apparatus. Because I remember watching mainstream coverage is MSNBC and CNN on purpose. What they'll do is they'll send a guy in the daytime. So at 2 p.m. when it's the peaceful chants, the guy would come out there and shoot his live shot real quick. Hey guys, everything's fine. There's nothing wrong here. And then by 3:30,
the camera goes off. He's like, get the fuck out.
And then by 3:30, he's already at the Marriott. He's already sipping, he's sipping cocktails.
Yeah.
While we were out there like showing that. So early on, man, the riot reporting kind of played a huge role into what I was called like the narrative shifting in these kind of major subjects that were happening in our country. But I mean, the country was torn. It was headed in this weird way, and
well, you were in. Chaz was insane. Like that was, as you described, it was the autonomous zone created in Seattle at the time with no cops. What could possibly go wrong? And so you're in the middle of that, and it's funny some of it listening to you talk about just shouting every keyword at a protest to sound like you're in the group. I actually had a friend who was not a journalist and just did that for fun to see what it would be like. And he said, dude, it's so easy. you just say keywords and they're like, yeah.
You have to say like comrade, like, hey, hi, what's going on, comrade? And I'm like, oh, that was a new one.
So anyway,
I'm a big bro guy. I say bro all the time. Then I had to switch it up like comrade, say comrade.
That's
like, comrade.
So I guess my question is like, obviously you are getting a lot of people on video who are not the best and brightest that this country has to offer, for sure. And you're getting some people who are genuinely there to, I guess they got bored on their couch from the pandemic and want to feel like they're a part of something. Also for sure. But did you also come across some of the people that you either blatantly caught them in a lie that was the tell, or in some way were able to determine that they were quite literally some sort of like dark organization paid crisis like actor, creator kind of thing? So
one thing that we noticed early on, and maybe because of the COVID payments might have played a role, but one thing that we noticed early on, man, is like, let's say we'll be in a riot in Atlanta. Let's say the next week we had to be in Seattle, then maybe the next week we're in Portland.
Same people.
We would see some of the same groups. Oh. And then, so we don't know, so that's, there could be, one of the reasons could be at that time, bro, everyone was getting paid to sit at home, whatever. So we start to see what we call the traveling rioters, or if you want, whatever, chaos characters. But every protest or riot, man, started having the same trend where like in the daytime was normal, like chants, walking on the street, whatever. And then when that sun would come down, little by little, it would start to turn, and it turns into the madness that it is. If you guys remember during 2020, Portland went over for 100 days. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Portland what?
Portland rioted for over 100 days. It would be like day 70, and they. And
that's where my buddy went undercover.
Okay, yeah.
Just for fun, no cameras.
I don't know if this would be up on the internet, bro, but this is just like a funny thing. But like, you would love my former boss, dude, Richie McGinnis. He's like just a character. But we would be in front of the Portland federal courthouse, right? It was a rioting. They do it for 100 nights. But the thing is, all these like nonprofits and GoFundMes were sending these guys money. So they had like in the park, they kind of had like a station set up. So like they have a bunch of shields and like weapons for like people to grab, and then they also had a kitchen, and the kitchen they would make they call them like riot hot dogs. They call them riot dogs, but the thing is that they taste bad because like every 5 to 10 minutes, Portland PD would come out and then shoot like gas or whatever, and like all that stuff would just fall on the hot dogs. And my boss dude would like film vlogs of like, hey dude, I'm gonna go eat a riot doggy, and then he would go get like this like hot dog with like gas canister, every fucking thing, riot munitions, and just like eat it on camera, and just like all types of stuff, dude. And but dude, yeah, it was crazy for the day. Like, during that time, bro, it was me, and then my boss, who was Richie McGinnis, and then our female coworker who was Shelby Telcott. I think her and only one other female, Savannah Hernandez, were the two females that covered the riots the whole time. But it was us three for the Daily Caller. All of a sudden, man, it was like, you guys are gonna be like we're just gonna send you guys into the mayhem with no security, no nothing. And little by little, dude, we played this massive role. See, that's some of our coverage. Just a
56 night.
Night 56.
Oh my God. Yeah, this was just, man, this feels like decades ago, but this was not long ago.
Dude, it feels, yeah. And then, it just like, I mean, I remember all this stuff. I mean, just like the riots, the shields. This is my camera. I filmed this one of this guy. He ends up getting assaulted. They had to put up obviously all the gates. But that went over. People forget that went over 100 days. That cost the city so many small businesses closed because of how long the riots went there.
Oh yeah. And a lot of them burned down.
And so we had one night. I forgot the guy's last name. I know the suspect's last name is Love. But we had one night. And it was down the street from this, where there was a Trump supporter guy. He was getting beat up, assaulted by a group of Black Lives Matter supporters. It was getting really bad. And then the guy makes it into his truck.
Oh, I remember that.
And then we followed the truck because he was driving wobbly, and the group kept following him.
Yep.
And he ends up, you've seen it, right? He crashes into the tree. They then drag him out, and then they do that nasty kick to the face.
The kick on the face.
So we filmed that.
Oh, that was you.
That was me. So I filmed that, and then as soon as I filmed that, one of the protesters goes, if you're filming this or whatever, we're gonna come get you. And I remember I was standing with another reporter who was my friend. He was also documented too. His name was Kalen. He was with Scriber News at the time. And I look at Kalen. I go, dude, I'm out of here. He's like, we left, and then we ended up uploading that. The guys ended up getting arrested and serving time.
Yeah, we can't show that, Alessi.
Yeah.
We cannot show that on here. What? It'll get demonetized. We cannot show that.
Yeah, don't show that. It's not important.
They fucking soccer punt his head.
So that goes on for 100 days, bro. We're covering it, and you guys, just the context here. I'm an intern, so this is like I'm learning everything. But it's like all of our stories now, dude, at this point are making it to Fox News National. So we're getting national headlines. We're changing the narrative of how people view the because everyone still thinks it's peaceful, and then
everyone.
So obviously this is going on all summer. I'm traveling around. I'm doing I'm really all I'm doing is being a riot reporter. So just to kind of break it down, what a riot reporter is, guys, it's just you're carrying a bunch of supplies, helmets, you have a gas mask, you have a bulletproof vest, you have a backpack with your supplies, and you're basically every riot or protest you're covering, you're trekking at least around, I would say 10 to 13 miles per day because of the riots, there's no Ubers. So you're trekking all over the city, you're documenting, you obviously have, portable batteries, you're trekking, you're not eating either because of the riots. All the stores are closed, so you're basically dependent on vending machines. So like vending machine is where you're getting dinner.
Huh, nice.
So that was kind of like the lifestyle we were living at that time. And then eventually there was that one night where I forgot, I think it was like in August, where I'm on Twitter, and the riots reach a little town that we never heard of called Kenosha. So the first night, Kenosha burns bad. It got crazy. And I had two reporter friends who were in Chicago drinking, and then Kenosha broke out, and they went straight from the bar, because I think Kenosha is about an hour from Chicago. Mm-hmm. They went over to Kenosha and covered it. So I'm watching their coverage.
This was Rittenhouse, right?
Rittenhouse. So I call Richie McGinnis, who's my boss. I said, hey, Rich, get on Twitter. Look at Kenosha. It's going, the word that we always say, it's popping. It's popping. It's popping. Like we should book flights. First flight from DC to Kenosha. Richie checks it out, approves. Yep. You, me, Shelby, let's get down there. So then we take the flight. We get to Kenosha on day 2. And on day 2, they shut down the city at that time. Because obviously it's already been one night of rioting. And so on day 2, they shut down the city. So just finding a hotel was a challenge. Finding like even a restaurant to eat before going out that night was a challenge. But whatever, we figured it out. Check in the hotel, we get ready, right? I got my black hoodie, I got my bulletproof vest under, I got my helmet, gas mask, the ordeal. Richie's packed up, Shelby's packed up. And now we're out for night 2. Night 2 is crazy. Like they're burning down a whole like they've used car lot sales, all the crazy stuff. So we're filming all that, crazy stuff, all the action. And then so then we get ready. Now it's night 3. So we get out for night 3 of these riots in Kenosha. Now night 3 is when the Rittenhouse crew came, because they that cruise that I've been watching the news for 2 nights now. That's when Rittenhouse comes down and wants to serve as like a medic. And then I don't know if we could even find this, like Richie McGinnis interview with Rittenhouse, or like McGinnis or Daily Caller Rittenhouse. But about 2 to 3 hours before the shooting, Richie gets a one-on-one interview with Rittenhouse, because what catches
Before.
yeah, and what catches Richie's eye is that Rittenhouse is like this 17-year-old kid. He has like medic stuff. He's armed.
Yeah.
So Richie's like, "You gonna help people?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm like a lifeguard or whatever." So they do this interview because Richie's always good at like catching little odd things like that. And he was just caught that like this 17-year-old, as of right now, doesn't take any political sides, wants to be there for his community or
Says that FYI.
I think we should be fine, bro, because it's not gonna show. It's just gonna be an interview.
Right, don't put it on the screen yet. Let's just see what it is. Yeah. Okay, but
so that's the one-on-one interview that McGinnis gets with Rittenhouse. This is night of shooting. So this is night of shooting, and obviously we don't know what's gonna unfold.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So Richie does an interview with them. Normal interview. We don't think. Pause.
Now get it off. Yeah.
So
make sure that's not on there on the post edit. Sorry.
So finishes the interview. Then that night, obviously it's another night of chaos. It's riots. It's burning buildings. It's chaotic. But there was more, I would say, gunfire, because before the Rittenhouse shooting, there was actually shots fired before, and I remember this because we heard the shots, and it was you guys. I'm trying to put it in the viewer's mind. You gotta remember, guys. We're in Kenosha. It's a small town in the middle of the night. It's like 1 a.m. and the whole town is in chaos. So even if you just hear some gunshots, it sounds like a war zone. It sounds like the whole city's being shot at. So there was gunshots before Rittenhouse, so it sounded already crazy, and So the night goes on, and then I'm about 2 or 3 blocks away from Rittenhouse shooting. So when the shooting occurs, I'm 3 blocks away. I don't know what's going on. I just hear shots, and people started running towards me, and then they started screaming, "Get into a hotel! Get into a hotel!" People are doing drive-bys, like whatever. And I'm like, "What?" So I run into a hotel because it's chaotic. The whole town's crazy. People are running all over the place. People are telling me like stuff that's not even true. People are saying that people are in SUVs shooting at. I don't know what's going on. So I get back to the hotel. And what I don't know is that my boss, Richie McGinnis, and I find out this later, but during this time I'm in the room, I didn't know this, but Richie McGinnis is right there at our car source, and he's right in front of the guy named Rosenbaum. So Rosenbaum, if you guys remember, when Rittenhouse shoots, Rosenbaum gets shot in the head. So my boss, Richie's in front of Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum, if I remember the story correctly from Richie, is Rosenbaum gets shot in the head, he drops. Richie's mind goes to fight or flight. So he takes off his shirt, wraps it around this guy's head who's bleeding, and then picks him up. And then Richie runs to the middle of the street. And then this is where like a random pickup truck comes. And then they get Rosenbaum and Richie get in the back of this pickup truck. And then this is what I found out when Richie testified in court a year later. That Richie looks over to Rosenbaum, and this guy's breathing weird, and that Richie looks at him and says, "Hey man, like you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. We're gonna have a beer about this one day, and we'll laugh about this one day." So they get to Kenosha Hospital, and this is where Richie calls me. I don't know what's going on at this point because I'm still thinking like people are shooting at people. It's just it's chaos. So Richie calls me and explains what happened. Rittenhouse shot. I'm at the hospital, and he goes, "This is what's gonna happen, man. Is I'm not gonna talk to you for like 12 hours. Because the police are about to interview me about the shooting, and they're about to take away. They're gonna take my phone, to see if I got any video of the shooting." And then he goes, "I just looked in the mirror right now. His brain is on my shoulder." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, my shirt's off. His brain is on my shoulder." He's like, "I got to talk to you later, dude." And this was like at 1:30, 2 in the morning. And we're like, what the heck? So the next day we wake up, and we haven't heard from Richie. And as you can imagine, the news is insane. Like, the Rittenhouse shooting was a massive deal. And then because of the Rittenhouse shooting, the riots stopped. Like, it was after that, like, they stopped in Kenosha. There was no more civil unrest. So the next morning we wake up, we're trying to get on the phone with Richie. We don't know what's going on with Richie. I find Shelby, make sure Shelby's okay. I find out that Shelby was like a little bit closer to the shooting than I was. And it was just like a crazy thing. And then we basically had to get flights to DC, and then we meet it with Richie later. And then Richie, after this, bro, was no longer the same human being. As you can imagine, like, it was just already a lot was happening in our lives, bro, because we were like already in the forefront of like this chaotic turn in history. You know, the riots, the amount of violence we kept seeing every night, the stuff that we endured just as like reporters, and then it just happened in this one moment. It was like so much, and then I could just tell, man, like looking at him, like he was just not the same, bro. Like he was some type of trauma, like had endured, and then I remember like 2 weeks later there was another riot. And normally, man, as like riot reporters, we get hyped now because like we love this stuff. Like we get hyped, we're like, yeah, you know, like book the tickets or like whatever. And I remember there was like another riot, and we had to like, you know, get in the car and like go, get the helmet. And I remember Richie like comes down the stairs and he's like, I'm not going. I'm like, why, dude? I'm like, there's another one. He's like, dude, he's like, I'm done with this stuff, man. After like,
PTS,
yeah. He's like, you and Shelby go. He's like, I don't want to go. And then basically, bro, we went, and then like a year goes by, and then in this year, Richie's gonna come out with it actually soon. I'm thinking at the end of this year, but he's writing a book about all this stuff. But basically, a year goes by, and I don't, you know, we don't think anything of it. Like we kind of all move on with our lives, and then you kind of forget that like there's gonna have to be a trial. So then trial comes, bro, and it was like this whole ordeal because the whole nation is on it. Yeah. Every media company was covering it. And then at that time I was actually living with Richie in DC. I lived with him during my time at Daily Caller. So I lived with him. And then so I was with him when he got technically like subpoenaed or whatever, got like the court ordered that he had to testify. So he had to get with lawyers. There was this ordeal.
Gotta relive it.
Then we got the real moment. So then trial happened, dude. I remember like obviously Richie goes, and then during this time, like all Fox News, I think, was like wanted to really interview Richie, and Richie didn't want to do interviews with anyone, man. He's like, dude, I don't have nothing to gain. You know, people were like looking to get all this clout off him, dude. He's like, I don't want any of that, you know. And then like the trial happened, dude, and it was like, dude, all eyes. And then the way that it was set up, just because like I was there in Kenosha, and the way just everything has set up as a reporter, the evidence was true that like Rittenhouse did defend himself, whatever. But I just thought because of the media apparatus, because of the narrative, Rittenhouse was gonna be found guilty.
Yeah, I actually did. I got COVID when this trial was going on, so it was a week where I couldn't bring anyone in. This was back in November 2021. Yes. So episode 75, I had to do a solo episode, and I did it on this right after the verdict. And you know, the case, obviously, it came out, in my opinion, legally correct. Like, he was within his rights to do that. It felt like a situation, though, and I still feel the same exact way as I did back then. I was like, no one really won here. You had a 17-year-old kid who definitely wasn't smart enough to know that he wasn't breaking the law, taking a rifle like that across state lines, right? He was being a fucking idiot, trying to be a hero, putting himself in a situation where he might have to use the weapon and kill people. He also killed people. Like, the guy he killed was, like, not a good dude. Still killed a dude.
Still killed him.
But also the guy was attacking him. And he was, at that point, within his rights to use self-defense. But again, we talked about the politics earlier. We either had people saying, throw this kid in prison for 60 years for stupidly going to an event and then technically using his rights to do exactly what he did. So it's not murder in that case. And then you had the other side like, he's a goddamn hero. And it's like,
dude, that's
no,
so cringe.
It's all of it is so fucking cringe. Like, I'm glad that someone wasn't found guilty of something that they shouldn't have been found guilty of. Don't make them a hero. Move on with life. Well, how hard is this?
I view it like you, but there's no winners in this in this story. And Richie had a key testimony because he was the one where I don't know if you could just type it really quick, bro. Oh, there. Oh, yeah. We have Richie there. Yeah. Richie does the.
I remember this.
Yeah. Where he talked, and then that's my colleague Shelby down there. She did the riots with us too. Oh, and that's us right there, Julian. Yeah, that's our famous like riot reporter picture. Right behind us is the Portland federal courthouse. There we have Shelby in the middle as a female.
What's up, comrades?
So yeah, so Richie had a key one. I forget exactly the words or the sentence, but it was like where the guy charged at Rittenhouse gun, and then obviously, guys, we all know what happened. Rittenhouse is found not guilty. It's an explosion on the media. The reason why, Julian, I wanted to bring this particular case, obviously we were there. It's tied to the riots, but for me personally, bro, there was a huge media lesson in here, and the media lesson was. The night of the Kenosha shooting, there was a few reporters on the ground. So it was Julio Rosas, who was with Town Hall Media, which is basically same as us, digital media, cell phone guy. Shelby Telcott is with us, Daily Caller, she's cell phone girl. Richie, cell phone. Me, cell phone. There's a guy named BG on the scene, cell phone. And then our boy Drew Hernandez, cell phone. So the 7 reporters that were on the ground are all digital media, so we're not connected to the big mainstreams, none of the TV corporations. We're all on cell phones. So we have no backing. The evidence of cell phones beat the billion-dollar media apparatus that was there to find Rittenhouse guilty no matter what. Because remember, MSNBC, CNN, they didn't give an F, bro. They went all in on this kid.
Yeah.
And they lost. And Glenn Greenwald got to talk about it. He's like, they basically lost to this is like one of the first trials where independent media went against corporate, and the cell phones won. Yep. And so for me, that was a huge lesson because after a trial like this, media companies blow you up, right? Because they want to interview you. You were there. And obviously, I talked about the trial and the verdict and all that stuff, but I wanted to make it clear to even them, you guys lost to independent media. Like, you guys lost because you care about a narrative and not just showing people what kind of happened. So this was key, and I want just people to remember that. Like, the only Rittenhouse is free because of the power of what independent media, and we put ourselves in that situation, and that was a trend of all the riots, but that kind of just like capped it off of the beautiful battle that we had with corporate media that summer, us against them and them against us.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think 2020 was, to buttress that, the inflection point for this, because people, they were remote, they were at home, there's shit going on in the streets, they can go outside, and we all have this, camera that's better than they used in the movies 20 years ago at our fingertips. And, part of me says as well that the eventual balancing a little bit that happened with social media in the last 4 years has also contributed to that. Now, what you're talking about with Rittenhouse is before Elon buys Twitter. Yeah. Okay? But then Elon buys Twitter, and I'm like, okay, he's moving it to the right. Probably not the worst thing considering the other platforms are left. Now you got Zuckerberg 2.0, Chad Zuck going on, who's like suddenly like red pill Zuck or whatever. So you're seeing some loosening there on, I guess, the Instagram. I don't know about Facebook. I have no idea what goes on there, but like at least on the Instagram side or whatever. And it's like it's helping what you're talking about, but it starts with the fact that the veil got lifted in 2020. And then obviously through cases like this where it's like, holy shit, we can't just, it's not nearly as easy to just cover shit up or sweep it under the rug as it used to be, because there's going to be too many people who have, no matter how much suppressing you do, it's going to get out. We all got phones. We can all text each other. It's going to go.
And Twitter, dude, played, just a massive role in this, but yeah, it's just, it was crazy, but Richie, man, and I'm really excited for him. He's almost done with the book of everything that happened in 2020 to us, and these kind of inner stories that I think people are really gonna kind of enjoy and not kind of know the just how crazy stuff was. But yeah, Richie played a key testimony, and look, that impacted him till this day, man. He hasn't been the same. Of course. And a bunch of like conservative outlets after that like hit him up and like wanted him to do speaker gigs, and he just was like, dude. People died.
Not everything's content.
Yeah, not everything. Like no one. Like I want your view, bro. Like no one won. People try to make it seem like he was like I don't know. He was a hero. I went to because it was that verdict. It was like at the end of the year. There's that group Turning Point USA. They always have like a end of the year big politic event thing, and they have it in Phoenix. And I only went because I got a bunch of friends that went. I just wanted to go see them before like the new year, and I went. And I didn't know that like the day that I went that they like invited Rittenhouse to do like to speak. And Rittenhouse comes into the convention, dude. And I was joking with a friend about it, but like the whole convention just swarmed on. Even like the celebrities and the conservative influencers. And I like joke with a friend. I'm like, bro, you would have thought like Drake is in here. We got conservative Drake in here. And then I ended up getting backstage passes. I ended up being backstage, and Rittenhouse is backstage. He's getting ready to go speak, and I could tell, dude, because no one else was because I'm just studying him. Because I'm like, because I'm this is like a human moment, and I'm like, because this kid's still 17 at this time, and then he's getting ready to speak to like a crowd of like, it was like 5,000 people. And then everyone is bothering them, dude. Like people are like, Rittenhouse, can you sign this? The girls will be on like on FaceTime, say hi to my mom, and then like every influencer is like still wants a selfie. And I could tell, dude, that the kid was having a mental breakdown of like, this is way too much. I'm about to speak. What am I really being famous? Like it was just a lot, and I could just read it in his mind. Like, this is not.
We all saw him on the stand.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I mean,
it was brutal, dude.
He's not, and I'm not saying that to rip him or anything. Like, it's a traumatic.
It's a traumatic
thing he went through,
dude. So it was just crazy, man, to see it, and then I got to be there just at least see that, and yeah, dude, it's just
that's
crazy.
You
world,
had a
bro.
real baptism of fire. That was, I mean, it's the best and worst thing that ever happened to you. You see some horrible shit. Oh, sorry, is that fucking cap leaking? My bad, bro.
No, yeah, you're good, bro.
I'll get you a new one. But you see the best of reporting, but the worst of humanity in a lot of ways too. And the sad part is like some of the stuff is supposed to be rooted in something good, but then it's just hijacked by like the dumbest people in the world, which is what happens with mobs.
Yep.
I mean, I'm happy to live in a country where actual peaceful protests can happen. Not to say that that's exactly what went down here, but like protests themselves tend to attract not the best and brightest.
No,
at least from someone who can think for themselves in either political direction, and you got to see that in a way
I want to ask
none
you,
of
like,
us ever will.
Like during that 2020 time, I imagine we all did, but like you had friends, right, that would be like, hey, Julian, how come you didn't post that black square, man? Or like, what team are you on, man? Or, like I had friends switch up during that era, dude. Like,
people. There was a massive like social psychosis that was going on, and what's crazy is that was during I launched this podcast publicly September 15th, 2020. From March 13th, 2020 until then, I was building it 24/7 around the clock in silence. Wasn't telling anyone about it. None of my friends even knew I was launching this thing. Doing God knows what, trying to figure out how to get this off the ground and teach myself how to do all this. And so it was weird because of course I'm following all this stuff on Twitter. I'm very attuned to the news because also that's going to be a part of my job coming up. But I was divorced from it in a way because I was on an island. I was in my parents' house back in the woods building, wasn't near this stuff or whatever. And so I couldn't even appreciate it till later. I remember exactly that moment when the Black Squares thing was happening. We woke up in the morning. My cousin was staying over because we were recording music in my studio for her for like 3 days at one point in there because it was also like it was a good thing for me to like be able to learn how to do all this and EQ. And it was like, oh yeah, everyone's posting Black Square for George Floyd or something. I was like, okay, great, send, and then never thought about it again. And then it came up on an early podcast, and I was like, yeah, what the fuck was that? And so many people were like going around and checking if you had a black square. So then I was like, well, we got to take this thing down. That's fucking crazy. Like this is like a witch hunt or whatever. But looking back on it was like, wow. Even me, who's like divorced from this stuff, it's like boom, yeah. There was there was zero thought that went into it. It was like, okay, all right, we're just gonna do this. Like, why? What was like? It's like, Jules, what were you doing there? What was the logic in doing that? And I think it's obviously an indictment on yourself, but it's also an indictment on
the surroundings,
on our surrounding society. That like, oh, we're gonna make a big fucking difference with a black square. Come on.
Dude, I remember thinking like that day just to piss off people, I put like a picture of like Conor McGregor punching somebody. I was like, dude, I'm not doing this. And then because I already knew what's up, bro. I'm seeing this in person as a reporter. And then I remember like the first thing I did is I called my little brother back in California because I'm like, this dude is like 20. I don't want, I guarantee his friends are all mixed in this, and his name is Luis. I call him. I'm like Luis. If I see on your social media that you attend any of these protests, I'm gonna fly back to California myself and kill you. And he was just like, he's like, dude, I just want to play Xbox. I don't care. I was like, all right, I'll take that. I'm like,
for him,
yeah.
Man.
But I'm like, bro, don't get lost in the sauce. And then I lost like real close friends like I went to high school with. They like stopped being friends with me over the coverage, and then it was like we're talking about friends, bro. Like I invited them to my house. My mom has like cooked.
That stuff.
That's so that's the worst. And then it's nice that like months later, hey man, sorry about that. It's like, dude,
you switched up.
Come on, bro.
Yeah,
you think People would be like, Jorge, you're a white supremacist. You sold out. And I'm like, bro, I did a bad job selling out. I'm driving the same Honda Civic, man. I missed my white supremacist check. Where's it?
Oh, that's the best. When they revert to white supremacists or whatever, and they call a guy who is objectively not white that's my favorite one ever. It's like, oh yeah, he's.
I'm like, you guys know my name's Jorge, right?
His name's Jorge. He's a white supremacist. Dude, that time just broke people.
Dude, it sounds like a Dave Chappelle episode.
What was it? Clayton Bigsby.
Oh,
Clayton Bigsby. Show us your face. Oh my God. So you had said this early on though, because obviously like that's how you had the best like experience to get yourself into how to and what to do here because you were operating in chaos. But you'd said really early on in the podcast, a lot of this border stuff got going with the initial documentaries. But like, when did you like, if we can refresh on that, when did you like get into it? Like, oh, this is now what I want to move to coverage to. We've been doing these riots. They're over for the summer. Like, let's go.
So basically what happened, bro, is, get the internship, riots in the summer. Obviously, riots don't last forever. So when the riots ended, Daily Caller obviously comes up to me and goes, we would love to give you a contract. Don't go, are you going back to school? And then so I accept and I drop out of school and I become full-time Daily Caller employee. So the thing is, bro, now it's like, where do I go from here, right? Like I covered riots. Now they're done. So what happened instantly, bro, right before the border, just because like this is kind of important, this whole culture and stuff is, Daily Caller was like, hey, for the holidays, go back home, get some rest. You almost died like 50 times. I also got arrested during the riots. Where like I had to go to, I went to jail in Louisville, Kentucky, because they thought I was a rioter. So that was a whole ordeal. So they were just like, hey man, like because things are calm, like go see mom and dad, like let them know you're alive. Go, recharge your batteries, and then come back in the new year and be ready to, just give us some new ideas or whatever you want to work on. Because at that time, bro, I have earned so much trust with Daily Caller. They were just like, you have the keys, but we want you to go see your family and come back. So I flew back home. And then when I flew back home to LA County, it was around November, December, as soon as I landed, LA County was doing the, I think we were the only county to do this in all of the US. They were doing the thing with the restaurants, bro, where they were only doing takeout only. So I'm pretty sure here in New Jersey, you couldn't eat inside, but you could at least eat outside. California and LA County, they weren't even doing that. It was just take out. And then in my hometown particularly, bro, is we have a lot of like mom and pop restaurants and local, and like we grew up with these people. Like a lot of these people I went to high school with, like their family. And so I knew they were all in really, really bad spots as businesses, and like they were basically not gonna make it. So I called Daily Caller. I was like, hey man, I know I'm supposed to be on vacation, but I'm like, I think an interesting story that we could tell that media is not doing, now they could do it because it's safe. Let's go up to these businesses, working class people, and like let's tell the stories of like surviving these business closures and like just real American storytelling. Like these guys are not about to make it. So we started. They gave me the green light again. They said, hey man, go interview a bunch of restaurants, and if it goes good, we'll send you Sagnik, and you guys could build a me and Sagnik did a mini documentary on the it takeout only. So we went to a bunch of these restaurants, bro, and I was meeting them, and I'm not thinking too much of these stories, but they were instantly like the first restaurant we met, it was like an Italian restaurant, and the wife starts crying like, we saved up 20 years, we opened up the restaurant, we love our employees, and now that we're all on takeout only, we can't because we're close to Christmas too, bro, so it was like now we can't pay our employees, they're not making any income, we're not making any income, and then the worst of it is like if someone even buys a meal, it's only on takeout, so it's like it doesn't, so we're about to go out of business, so we were telling a lot of like those heartbreaking stories of like these businesses losing everything, employees like not eating, making no income. So I started doing a lot of that, and then I was interviewing like a server, and then one server was like, man, that's not even the worst of it, that I'm making no income. I'm like, what do you mean? Because a lot of servers, their significant other is a server, so you had like basically married couples not making literally zero money for the household, and I'm like, what do you? Because I'm in my mind, I'm like, what do you mean? Like you're not making any money, you're about to lose everything. What's worse than that? And then the guy goes, when I come home, my daughter now has, we notice that every time we come home, she's cutting her wrist because she wants to kill herself. And he goes, then he starts sharing more about her. She's like, hey man, like I have a 10-year-old daughter. She has like all A's, all-star in softball, the whole ordeal. And he goes 4 or 5 months now into the shutdown. She has all Fs. She can't talk anymore, so she can't hold eye contact. So she lost her social skills. She doesn't play softball anymore, and then she's now borderline suicidal. And I go like, and as a reporter, dude, it just sparks an idea because I'm going like, obviously I've been focused on the business angle, and by this time, me and Sonic had already done we already put together a mini documentary called Take On Only to help out these restaurants. So then, boom, another light bulb. I go, I'm like, are you okay if I interview you and your daughter about like this? Like, we can start to share about what these kids are going through. He's like, no problem. So then, little by little, bro, I started to. This was kind of a crazy time in my reporting kind of career was, every day, bro, for like a little bit over a month, I had 3 or 4 families that I was interviewing every day about, and this was the same trend. I have an 8-year-old boy, awesome in basketball, has all these friends, all A's. Now wants to kill himself, suicidal. We found a suicide note in his room, or we found like a knife, or like he now writes that like he can't wait for his life to end. He doesn't want to associate. Like, just that was the trend. So I'm putting all these stories, but I'm doing all these interviews. We're putting all these stories. Fox News is getting me on. We're getting these stories out because now my whole ordeal too, bro, is to always to challenge mainstream narrative. So it's like my mind was like, if I already did it in the riots, I'll do it. I did it on the business closures, and I'll do it on this with the kids. Because because at that time, bro, the narrative in media was schools closed because if you want schools open, you're a bad person because stuff gets spread. So we started sharing these stories, and one thing that was interesting about this, bro, was whether I would be in South Central, like poor working class or lower middle class. And then I would be in Malibu with like $1 million home mansions, and they all had the same issue. Same story. And then the one that stood out, and it was like the last one that like right where I did before we switched was there was a family in Vancouver, Washington State that invited me up, the Brainy family, and the Brainy family invited me up. And I went up there, and their story was that they have a little kid. His name is Nicholas Brainy, and he was like I think 10 years old at this time. And it was on. What was weird? It was on January. It was on January 6th, where the parents left the little boy with his grandpa, and so like the grandpa is taking care of the boy, and like at this time now the kids, like I said, same story, suicidal, loves sports, doesn't play sports, doesn't talk to anyone now. And I guess the grandpa basically tells the kid like, "Hey, I gotta go to Walmart for like 20 minutes just to go pick up medicine. I'll be right back." So he leaves, and then that kid basically goes into his grandpa's cabin, grabs they had like a pistol or something, or some type of gun. He puts it in his head and shoots himself in the mouth. So the grandpa comes back to the scene. The thing is, the grandpa took like 30 minutes. So when he comes back, he doesn't also know the time of when his grandson shot himself. He doesn't know if it just happened or if it happened 30. Like there's no timeline. All he does is he comes back to his grandson with a pool of blood, and then he's making that like like that weird, like the way that they like described it to me. So obviously his grandpa 911, and then obviously contacts his parents. I don't know, what happened, whatever. And they so according to his parents, this kid had like less than like a 5% chance to live. The doctor saved his life, and then he had like less than a 3% chance to get his like memory and his understanding back, and he like got that back. So when I flew in to do this interview with the family, the kid was still in a ICU, so I couldn't even see him because also with COVID, the way the hospital was like only like one person could be in the room. Yeah. So they had it like obviously for the dad. So we go and do the interviews. We did this interview with the parents, and it was crazy, man. Like the parents were obviously heartbroken. They were also trying to be like, we don't know what to do because like we try to find solutions. Like we try to call other parents and be like, hey, can we just organize like a play day? Our sons could get together, they could play basketball at a park and whatever. And they'd say that they would be like villainized by those parents. They'd be like, you guys want to meet up during COVID? Like how could you? And we could get sick, and then what about us? So they tried to do that. They said they tried to organize with other parents. That wouldn't work. They tried to connect the son with like other kids online. And that wasn't having much success. What was sad, bro, is there was another girl that was suicidal on the East Coast, and she wrote a letter to this kid, and I read it, and she was like, in the letter, she like draws herself on the roof and how she was gonna jump off the roof to kill herself. And then her dad like saved her last second, and then like now she like loves her life, and she's like, when I can, I want to fly to Washington and stay and be with you, and just like to show you have friends. And then basically, bro, this kid, they saved his life, and he like got his re-understanding back. He was like a big UFC fan, so like I think like 2 months into his recovery, like his dad was already watching pay-per-view fights with him, and he like knew who was fighting, and it was this crazy story. And but like we put it together, bro, just to once again to show, hey, like you turn on New York Times or CNN at that time, it was school shut, school shut, school shut. And it's like, well, this is the other side of that. That like this is also a part of the story too. You know, obviously, well, you could have this, but we're telling this too, man. So I finished my reporting around this time. It was early 2021. I kind of finished this kind of angle of like telling the story of school closures. You gotta also imagine, bro, as a reporter, I'm like done because I went like 90 days of being other people's therapist for 90 days. It's you know, try to challenge yourself 90 days where you're sitting with 3 or 4 families who are bawling, who feel like they also feel like they have no one else. Like you're like the last line of anything, and you're just a reporter. Like you know, you're not gonna like change policy that day. So I dealt with that, and then as soon as that chapter closed, you know, obviously as a reporter, it's like, well, what's next now? And then Biden is technically in office, and then around March is when that term border crisis first hits the news, and it was at that time, ABC News and CNN actually covered it for like the first 2 weeks of it, and then like I don't know, they kind of like dropped the ball. But for the first 2 weeks, you heard that term border crisis, like border crisis. Yeah. And I remember you turned on the news, and like CNN had like 5 reporters on the ground, ABC had like a team, and then you know we didn't think much of it. And then like another month went by, border crisis, and finally Richie contacts me and goes like, "Hey Jorge, like we should get on top of this border thing. They're like, you speak Spanish. Like, we know you haven't covered immigration, but they're like, let's see what we could get with the video stuff. You know, normally we do a good job with the video. Let's just see." Then my very first trip, dude, was like March 2021, McAllen, Texas. My first night, I saw a group of 300 migrants, which now is nothing. But at that time, it's still a lot of people. And then I remember just being caught off guard with the amount of bodies that we saw in the middle of the night, and then the kids, even seeing how they were looking for the agents, bro, and then basically that kind of kicked off my border reporting. And then what I didn't know at that time, bro, this was obviously like, because I was so new to immigration, that this was gonna lead us to, you know, human trafficking, drugs, the children being smuggled in the middle of the night in Roma, Texas, with the wristband. You know, when I started reporting on that, on how the cartels use the wristbands on the kids to see which, you know, so it's like, little did I know, bro, like back in March of 2021, this was going to open up this whole new, you know, and then obviously we didn't know that immigration was going to be a big deal. I mean, look, it's 2024, it's one of the biggest deals in the election, and then little by little, bro, just, you know, what it is, man, is just approaching every of these topics with a gonzo style approach to journalism, where it's like, we want to lead with the video, we want to tell powerful stories from the ground. We don't want to be like corporate media. We want to show all sides. So that's how I kind of approach, you know, the border. And then little by little, the border is one of the subjects, man, where like, I mean, a lot of subjects are like this in news, but like it's really one of the ones where like you can't be in your Manhattan apartment and, you know, covering this stuff. Like you got to be on the ground getting your hands dirty. That's why I think a lot of corporate journalists don't like the border, because it's one of those subjects where you got to be on the ground. You got to learn routes. You got to learn, you know, smugglers' tactics. They do this here. They, you know, when people see my reporting, they just see the sexy part of it, but they don't see us like in a smuggling route, 7 hours in, nothing has happened. And then, you know, like learning those little things. So we started learning little things and tactics, and then seeing how Mexican smugglers work and then little by little, dude. And now we're kind of here, and it's like it's turned into this massive story that now it's like it has all these kind of wormholes, and who knows where it's going to lead us to now.
So you go down there, you're still like 22, 23 years old. You get thrown into the middle of a narco, human trafficking, migrant crisis, death zone with no sources to speak of. Like, this is down in Texas. You're from California. And you start reporting on this. How do you even begin there? Like, how do you cultivate sources beyond just like some of the local border patrol?
So for me, that I found success early, man, is around the end of 2021, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, around October, November of 2021, if you guys remember, is when we had the big story where 15,000 Haitians crossed into the U.S. basically at the same time in Dorey, Texas. And then they have like kind of the famous aerial images of, I don't know if we could bring that up, bro, the 15,000 Haitians in Dorey during that time. It was insane. And essentially we were down there covering it, and I was speaking with some reporters in Fox News, and I was still early. I'm covering it, I'm still learning everything. And one thing that they told me early on was that they were not allowed to go into Mexico because Fox News thought it was too dangerous. So as a guy who's competitive, the first thing that pops up in my mind was, I gotta go to Mexico. That's gonna be my only way to beat these guys. So little by little, I would be spending more time on the Mexican side of the border, so Mexican border towns. So for instance, if we would be reporting in Eagle Pass, Texas, I would cross over into Piedras Negras and then start reporting from there. And then by doing that, for instance, like we'll be in San Diego, we'll go to Tijuana, here in Del Rio, across is the Sur Acuña. And by me spending so much time on the Mexican side, I got to build relationships with contacts, journalists, and just kind of other important figures in when it comes to like migration in Mexico. And then like little by little, you're able to just have way more info because the Americans don't want to go into Mexico. And little by little, bro, the Mexicans just start giving you all the info on everything and just start like looking out for you. So for me, obviously you're going to develop sources here in the U.S., right, with law enforcement and all that stuff, the ride-alongs. But for me, man, I found a lot of success going into Mexico, being in the trenches with the Mexican guys, and then they respect you. And then after that, they start leaking you a bunch of info, and then just start, they have any respect for any American who's willing to spend a lot of time over there. So building my relations with the Mexicans has been super, super key, I say, in all this. And then it just has led us into some crazy stuff. I think I'm the only American journalist as of now that's gone into Tijuana, done an actual TV interview with the mayor of Tijuana as she's getting she was getting cartel threats. So she was actually living in a military bunker. We were the only, so far, I think, American TV journalist to lock in a one-on-one interview with her to talk about the cartel threats. And I think, we got that from the relationships of, spending times with the Mexicans. One thing,
crazy that you're the first. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is with what a Mexican journalist, man, is we call them, you probably might have heard the term, Julian, is we call them fixers. So like, for instance, if you're a reporter in U.S. and you want to go cover like right when the Ukraine war started, most likely that American journalist got in touch with Ukrainian journalists and then hired them as a fixer. So basically you would basically fly to Ukraine, and then because that journalist knows Ukraine, they could drive you around. They know how to look for news. They kind of help you for that. So what I do too is for my fixers that I hire in Mexico, I always overpay them. So I take care of these guys. So if they charge me like $300 for a day to be fixing with them, I'll give them like $450, $500. Take care of these guys way more cash. Every fixer that I met so far likes to drink tequila. So after a good reporting trip, we'll hit the bar, slam some Don Julios, and it's fun, man. It's just all about relationships, bro. And Mexico's like, they just operate different. They're more wild cards. They take bigger risks. I have massive, and I tell them this almost every time, I have massive amount of respect for Mexican journalists. I mean, I praise them to the ultimate high. I just because first of all, we all know they put themselves in great risk and danger covering the cartel. But the fact that like a lot of these guys, man, like they do it for like the literal love of the game. Like a lot of these guys still have regular jobs. They'll be like a taxi driver, or they're still like a fisher, and then they have to use that income for journalism just because like they get paid that little. And while like the journalists in Mexico making like the $1 million contracts are like the mouthpiece for the government. I mean, kind of similar here in the U.S. So I have a huge amount of respect for those guys. Like I love working with those guys. Like I just love being in the trenches with these guys, and like just the adventures that we have with these Mexican fixer journalists. It's like it's amazing, man. Hopefully I could write a book about it one day with these guys.
I hope so. Yeah. Did you have a lot of knowledge about the cartels before you went to do any of this border reporting?
No. I mean, basically, I would say like maybe like with the average American, or like whatever you find on Google, and then obviously now being in this world, it showed us another kind of world of this. The one that we covered that was kind of big and also cartel related was last year. If you remember when the 4 Americans got kidnapped in Matamoros, Mexico. 4 Americans.
Yes.
So this was the original. So the original story was, I don't know if you want to just bring it up, bro. The Americans that got kidnapped in Matamoros, but the original story is that they went in there for some type of surgery, and they got kidnapped, and they ended up like killing 2 of them, and then two survived. So I was actually in East Palestine doing the whole train derailment coverage. I fly to Atlanta. At that time, my home base was Atlanta for News Nation. So I fly to Atlanta. As soon as I fly to Atlanta, they're like, don't even leave the airport. Book to I forgot Brownsville, Texas, because we're gonna have you go to Matamoros. So book to Brownsville, and the thing is, when you go into Matamoros at a time like this, like after a cartel killing and kidnap, you got to go in with a really trusted fixer, because that's when the cartel is looking to keep media out and eliminate anyone. So we got a really good fixture. As soon as we crossed, she was instantly like, don't talk to anyone, don't talk about news, don't jump in any random taxi, and if someone's following us or anything or anything, we got to keep moving. Any live shots that we did our reporting, we could only be there for like 10 minutes max, and we had to keep moving. So we were in that kind of like cartel hot zone during that time to report on the Americans, and then actually we found out that like there was probably more sketchier stuff involved. We're probably thinking they were there for drugs. They weren't there for any surgery or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just learning, man, and then just picking up all the info you can, and it's just been fascinating, like learning about all types of stuff with these guys. Like now they're more into now human smuggling is a big cash cow for cartels, just because quick money is almost like an unlimited source. These guys are doing a really good job of recruiting teenagers in Houston and San Antonio to drive down with their own cars, pick up migrants. They're becoming more sophisticated. We did work on a case, man. This one was in Nuevo Laredo. I don't know if you want to type really quick, man. It put like Laredo American kidnap. We did this was an area one that we did with the cartel. In that basically, if you guys don't know, there's Laredo, Texas, and then the border town is Nuevo Laredo.
Mm-hmm.
Nuevo Laredo is maybe the sketchiest, or right there, sketchiest border town all of Mexico. We always say border towns are controlled by cartel, but Nuevo Laredo is controlled at a different level. Like the surveillance is at a different level, where like once you cross in, they know who you are. Put Laredo as in take out that T, put the D, put like Laredo, Texas, or put like maybe there it is, FBI. Yeah, we could go back. Oh, that's one right there too. Yeah,
FBI kidnapped. All right, so FBI kidnapped man bragged in Laredo about stealing $50K from cartel. And we'll scroll down right there. Should I read some of this real quick?
I'll give you guys just a breakdown.
Okay.
So basically, we did a story here. It says there's an American man who was at a party in the U.S. side, Laredo, and he was bragging at a party to a female, and he was bragging that he sold $50,000 from the Cartel del Noreste, which is the cartel of Nuevo Laredo. So he brags to her, "Hey, I sold $50,000. They can't touch me." Basically, within 2 hours, and we put this from court documents. So within 2 hours, this is on the American side.
They touched him.
An F-150 truck, or like a truck, some kind, comes, 4 men. They come and beat the guy up, and they put him in the vehicle. Now, what always catches your attention, and how you could tell the cartel surveillance part is, normally when you go back to cross into Mexico, as you guys know, you guys go through a port of entry. They're supposed to stop the vehicle. Right, they stop the vehicle, they check for papers or whatever. We were able to pull back that surveillance and notice that there was no stop at the port of entry. So Mexican officials let the F-150 go, basically right into Mexico. Right before the truck goes into Mexico, the back door, the left-hand side opens, and the guy's name is Jonathan. He tries to get out of the car, and they pull him right back in. And then they go right into Mexico. That guy's dead now. I mean, that's for sure. Then he hasn't been found since. But that story was eerie because it shows you the power on the U.S. side and the fact that they control that
US
port.
Side.
Yeah, and the scary part is that port of entry, because they let the vehicle go right through. No Mexican official stopped that vehicle. So it's just a completely different beast, man. And the amount of migrant women that I've interviewed that have been like sexually assaulted, been kept in stash houses by these guys. The big one, man, like I said, we uncovered in Roma, Texas, was the unaccompanied children that were being smuggled in the middle of the night on boats, on like these little boats, and they had the wristbands to see
you were
which.
Talking about that.
Yeah, so like the colored wristbands to see which migrants have paid, which ones haven't. So we
I love how they have wristbands like a fucking club. And it like a lot of time. Nick was talking about this. Kids will literally then sometimes, and that's not necessarily this example you're talking about, but you'll have kids trafficked across the border by a cartel coyote who then are taken to the airport and sent alone to some predetermined place that they have no idea who's picking them up on the other end. I mean, this is how I can't believe that happens in America. I mean, I guess I should believe it.
It's sad. And then there was like some investigations that found that like some of these sponsors had like 3 or 4 migrant children at a one address. It's like, why do you need that? It's just like it's a sketchy underworld right now, man. But when it comes to like actual like cartel presence, like in the U.S., I would say like where you have it the most, or where you actively have it, is all in these not all, but like involved in this marijuana black market stuff. So
Yeah.
So according to like Cal Fishing Game and some of the investigators I spoke with them and DEA,
I want to talk with that guy.
yeah, they have an estimated around 10,000 active members just in California operating in black market marijuana, and we're talking about Cartel Testa Sinaloa, Cartel Jalisco, New Generation. But like I said, right now we're seeing this new thing where they're letting the Asian and Chinese have the marijuana, and where the Mexicans will continue to operate in the fentanyl world. So it's been. I mean, like I said, right now they're making. I mean, 30 grand per Chinese. They're gonna keep those coming.
Oh yeah. Have you had any contact yourself now at this point, directly in some ways in a journalistic capacity with guys inside the cartel?
So yeah, March earlier this year, I worked with. You would love him. You got to have him on. He's a great cartel journalist. Is Luis Chapparo out of Mexico?
Oh yeah.
So
before you go on about that, I have been looking for a cartel journalist for a long time, and I love Luis' work, but he's on every podcast. I'm trying to find someone who hasn't been on stuff. It is fucking impossible, bro. I've wasted so much time trying to find someone. The only people I found don't speak a word of English. Like, not one.
And the thing is, bro, it's such a deep underworld. Only a few guys could really, work it. And so the thing with Luis is we worked on stories together before in the past. And I reached out to Luis saying, hey, I'm working on this Tijuana story. I'm seeing like the homicide rate jump. And I was wondering if you could bring me into any contacts. So Luis actually helped me land an interview with cartel members for the Tijuana cartel. But these guys were strictly, their job is strictly drugs and guns. So bringing the guns in from the U.S. into Mexico, and then fentanyl and any of those hardcore drugs into the U.S. So we got to meet with these guys like in Tijuana, in one of the more sketchiest neighborhoods, and I did it with Luis. And I think because I went in with him, everything was good because like they respect Luis. Luis covers the cartels, but from like a very like culture aspect, which I think these guys really respect. So I went in with Luis and. Dude, they were just armed to the T, weapons, drugs. They were still moving marijuana, so they were like, hey, a lot of the marijuana we dig it deep under, so like the cops and all that stuff. So we talked about the weapons and how they were getting them and how they dismember them. And then at the end, man, I try to just keep it human as possible. I was just like, I'm like, how do you guys feel with like all these Americans dying, because of the fentanyl moving in? And for them, it's strictly business. What was interesting about my conversation with this particular guy who was running drugs is he knew that he couldn't do it for another 5 years. He was basically saying that like, I'm gonna get out the game soon because it's like my kids can't be in this game.
That's what they all say.
That's what they all say though. Yeah. So that's been my closest like one-on-one contact was with Luis. We landed up in Tijuana.
His
super
system's crazy, by the way. Like how he has to talk with these guys and how they like some of the shit they'll send him and trust him. Like he's amazing. He went on Danny Jones's podcast way back. He's been on there a few times. Like absolutely incredible reporting.
And I mean, just even like how we communicate with these guys, because he was saying he's like, hey, if these guys request to meet, we have to go. So it's like so they don't say, hey, meet at 11. It's yes, no, boom.
Yeah.
So through Luis, we've been able to actually encounter some drug traffickers in Tijuana, which is for folks who don't know, Tijuana is basically second most dangerous city in the world.
Yeah,
averages close to 2,000 homicides. It is chaos town, and we spend a lot of time there. So we're right now hoping that we could do something else with these guys, hopefully closer to the marijuana aspect because of here in the U.S. The other aspect right now that we're trying to look into and hopefully go embedded with is a lot of these cartel guys are now kind of hiring their own or building out their own drone teams. So the drone,
shit.
So the
How's
drone
this work?
So the drones have become a huge thing too, where like they recruit guys and they basically hire these guys to just completely be the drone operating team. And then they're attaching bombs to these drones. So they're bombing law enforcement, bombing rivals. And there's still more. I don't know if we could Google it really quick, bro. Just put like Mexican drone attacks cartel. So we're seeing more of that aspect. So hopefully in this next year, we want to go embedded in Mexico with one of these guys, maybe on a drone training program, and just to see how these guys are operating. But it's fascinating, all this stuff. And then in that Tijuana trip too, we went embedded with the Tijuana police because they basically have a new war with the cartel. There, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is crazy stuff, dude. Yeah.
Shit.
Like that one has drugs, but a lot of these have bombs, evade jammers.
You said they're at war though, the Tijuana police and the cartels.
And the Tijuana, and particularly the Tijuana cartel. I guess they had 3 corrupt cops steal a drug shipment from them, and it kicked off this new war back in like October, and it like hasn't stopped. So they just been killing each other. So I went to go talk to like the Tijuana police, and they were like, dude, we don't know what to do, because he was like saying an issue that they were having was that these guys were placing cameras all over the city and watching the cops. So he's like, that's one thing.
Nice.
But he's like, but the other thing is that they convinced the residents to place cameras on the residency, and what the cartel would do is be like, hey, we'll pay you guys Wi-Fi for like the next 5 years or whatever, but have this camera here. So it's really just a battle of surveillance that the Tijuana police was telling me about, and that they're getting guys killed left and right because they're being watched. It's just Tijuana is a crazy city. Like if people haven't been there, like I said, the rate of homicides, the fact that it is one of the craziest like party towns for Americans, just as like a little spice to it too. But yeah, Tijuana, dude, sketchy town. Like I said, Tijuana police they're getting murdered every day. They're right now, like I said, they have the battle with them being surveilled all the time, so they got to like use drones too. And then, like I said, I was down there in the end of last year, because we landed in a one-on-one interview with the Tijuana mayor. She was getting. She's still getting cartel threats to the point where she has to live in a military bunker. Even when we went to go interview her, because she starts off her day like, like the normal mayor, like she'll go meet in the like get her like agenda for the day. So like even when we went to go meet with her in her office just to get the day started, to go like join her for her public events, we were surrounded by like Mexican National Guard, Mexican military, private security. These guys were like armed to the T. I got to travel in an armored SUV with the mayor, and like just communicate with her and just be like, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing this? You get literally killed any day. So we got to like talk about that, and we were like the first American TV journalists to like get that one-on-one, go embedded into TJ for that, which is a sketchy town, yeah. But yeah, man, Mexico is just like I said, for as a border reporter, I feel like it's essential. Like you almost have to go, and I'm a competitive guy, so when I was at the Daily Caller, our goal at the Daily Caller was to get on Fox News, and to get on Fox News, we have to beat some of their own reporters at the border. Yeah. But when I heard that the guy was like, "Oh, we can't go into Mexico," dude, light bulb. I'm like, "Oh, it's over for you guys. I'm gonna live over there. Yeah. I'll dominate you guys," and then building relationships with the fixers.
Do you feel scared though sometimes?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. But I don't know, man. I enjoy like I think the thrill takes over the fear more than anything. Like the adventure, the thrill. For people who don't know, Mexico is like literally the most dangerous country for a journalist. It's #1. So it's like I could be in like in Gaza right now. I'll be safer in Gaza than technically in Mexico. Crazy. I mean, just if we talk about just the homicide rate of journalists, I mean, it's crazy to say.
Have you had friends die?
No, thank God.
That's good.
Because I have Mexican journalist friends who obviously cover this stuff. Nothing has happened to them during the riots. A good majority of my friends who were journalists in the riots got all like assaulted, but nothing like crazy. Right. But yeah, man, anytime I can, man. Yeah, huge shout out for like I said, just Mexican journalists. These guys are literally, I mean, for like the love of the game, risking their life. I remember I was speaking to one because we were covering a cartel thing, and then one thing he brought up to me was like, look, Jorge, for you at the end of the day, the story ends for you. You cross over the U.S., it's done. You'll be peaceful. For us, the story doesn't end. There's no line for me to cross over to be safe again. And then that kind of put some context, once again. And so
do you take precautions before you cross the border? Like, are there certain, you don't have to, if there's things you can't reveal, don't reveal it. But
I mean, the thing is, bro, it's like, because it's Mexico, you really can't already do much. I mean, you could literally like the most that I could do is on an iPhone, bro, just give a friend or a coworker like, hey, this is my location. I'll check in with you, and then we kind of go from there. Even when Sonic and I were doing the marijuana stuff, we did you can't have much security. It's kind of just us on our own. But I like the thrill, man. I feel like they're important stories. And then when I'm with these guys too, dude, it makes me appreciate it more. I'm like, oh, I'm the lucky one, man. I get to go back to the U.S. and whatever. I'm like, these guys don't, and these guys are still working like regular jobs. So I want to I don't know. I just want to do as much good by them as possible, if that makes that makes sense. And then for them too, but like they respect it. Like they see me out there hustling with them. They respect it. It's fun, man. And then we'll go listen to some corridos after. Go smash tequila. They got and then we wake up and we do it all over again, dude.
Like you said, you don't have to be there. And they gotta love that because there's not, these basic reporters here, they're not doing that.
No, dude, and it makes me even lose more respect for the for the folks here. These folks are writing hit pieces. They're in some Manhattan apartment. They're getting paid six figures. The guys in Mexico are getting paid dirt, and they're the ones actually doing news. So, I always have huge respect for those guys. I always try to shout them out as much as I can. And man, it's if we get you down there, Julian, we'll take you to
I would
TJ, bro.
I would actually really like to do it. The thing that I think would be like naturally a little fearful is if we crossed over the border into there. It's still something I'd like to do.
And that's what Tommy G tells me too. He's like, I'm scared about the crossing over part, and
that's scary.
So no, but I've been lucky, man. Blessed. We've had some great adventures in Mexico. We've done fentanyl labs with the Mexican military. We've done
fentanyl labs with the Mexican military.
What happened there? Up in TJ, we were in the middle of a press conference with the mayor. And we had a source text us that they were raiding a fentanyl lab in the mountains, and then we got to go and like check it in person, and just to see how it operates in Mexico. And then in that same story, we then interviewed residents in Tijuana that had bodies buried by the residency and don't feel like the government is doing enough. So we did that. We interviewed Mexican nationals whose kids been missing forever. We were also recently did a story there where. Because in Mexico, it's obviously quite common for people to go missing, and then you got to like search for your own family members. So there was this group where like a dad is searching for his son. He's been searching for his son for like 7 years now. And then he, by accident, discovered 4 migrants that were murdered execution style. So shot in the back of the head, murdered execution style. So he calls us. So we go do the story. But that's like the type of stuff that Mexico sees all the time, man. But, so we'll see. And then, obviously, with the election, like Trump has a good chance of winning, I would say. The part that I don't see this working as a journalist, and as like from every angle, I just don't see, is putting U.S. troops on the ground to take on Mexican cartels. I don't think that works. I just don't see it.
That would be very extreme.
I talked to Ed Calderon, who was like the former like Mexican military guy and all that stuff. And one good point that he brought up that I was always thinking too, because obviously I cover immigration, was. You put military on the ground. Technically, Mexican nationals then could claim asylum in the U.S. So it makes this weird thing on immigration.
Oh shit! Yeah.
There's so many things. So like when it comes to like people always want to talk to me about that part when we talk about cartels, and I'm like I just don't see how it's successful at all. First of all,
it would be a giant military operation against a country that is like kind of an ally.
Yeah,
there's arguments there, but like. They're on our border too.
Yeah.
You like once you ring that bell, bro.
You can't go back.
Oh,
man.
That's scary.
Yeah. So that's where I don't see how that's gonna play out.
Unfortunately, I think the key here is cleaning it up on our end, and this is what sucks because like I want to be the world's humanitarian at all times, right? But I also know how shit works, and like if you're the most powerful country in the world. And you clean it up on your end, and that pushes all the cyclone of bullshit completely back into their end. It forces their hand to have to do more. Obviously there's enormous entrenched relationships between the cartel and politicians and law enforcement at every level, but you would create in my opinion, far more white knights if like it was like, yo, it's us against the world because no one's coming in here to help us. There's always that opening of like, well, some of these problems pour over to America. I'll let it go. And you kind of have to have that in Mexico's case, that civil crisis, in my opinion, to actually fix it. I've never really seen a better argument than that.
And what's crazy, dude, is the border obviously made it 10 times worse. And then it started creating other issues. And the other issues now you have other gangs or other organized crime making their way into the U.S. that we'd not seen before. And this stumbles into the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua prison gang.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So basically, the border crisis starts in 2021. As reporters, we already know about Tren de Aragua in Venezuela. We've been kind of watching this group develop, crazy violent prison gang that originated in Venezuela, obviously, and you know, criminals in every level, sex trafficking, human trafficking, they're in every kind of business. So little by little, I have contacts in South America start to say, hey man, like, just want to let you know, in this Venezuelan migration that you're seeing, you're gonna get some of these guys that are gonna make that trip. And so, you know, that I'm getting that warrant early in 2021, but I'm not thinking much of it just yet. And also I'm getting caught up in other stuff. You know, I went in the marijuana stuff and the Chinese. I'm not thinking Venezuelans. And then 2023 happens, and I'm getting I'm start having these not daily, but regular calls with an immigration attorney. His name is Rolando Vasquez in Florida, who's like, hey man, I'm just letting you know, like 90% of my clients are Venezuelan, and like a lot of my Venezuelan clients are being extorted by this gang called Tren de Aragua. I was like, I don't know much of it. And little do I know that this attorney bro on his own starts to dig deeper and deeper. And then basically he's finding out that his migrant clients are being extorted and being threatened by this gang, and that gang is now moving into Florida. And then because this guy Rolando, this immigration attorney, was kind of getting involved in all this stuff, especially with his clients, that gang started to threaten him, start to send threats to him, to his wife, saying that they would kill him and his daughter. You know, just like saying, we know where you are in Florida and stuff. And they started kind of putting out the hits. His clients start to like get some threats, and then like little by little, a few homicides in South Florida kind of occur. I don't know if we could type it in, bro, like South Florida, Tren de Aragua, but some homicides start to occur in South Florida, and then he starts to send me these local news reports. He's like, hey man, you got to keep up with this stuff because something's happening with this Tren de Aragua prison gang. There's a lot of connections here. I know you've been following the Venezuelan migration and some of the crime. And then little by little, dude, this gang that was like not known at all, didn't even have presence in the United States, now is here, and like little by little was going to start to now make the national headlines. Not yet. First, they started coming into New York. So we have a lot of Tren de Aragua in New York that's already embedded with the Venezuelan community there, and right now in Chicago. Those were the first two hotbeds: is New York, Chicago, and then now we have South Florida. So in here in New York, they've already basically kind of got embedded in community. So they're like Uber, you know, they could be Uber drivers, Uber Eats, you know, delivery. But they're fully in New York. They've already been committing crimes. I've been speaking with some of the local reporters in New York following Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua then is in Chicago, and then now the other one here is South Florida. So they've been committing some homicides in South Florida. The one that put it on the line, bro, is that one. Is they lured a woman to a Miami-Dade hotel and then murdered her, and they found out that they were Tren de Aragua.
Venezuela's vicious Tren de Aragua gang, known for its brutality and dominating narco-trafficking and black markets in an area of South America, is operating in South Florida, according to federal and local law enforcement. A recent murder in Miami-Dade County is evidence that members of the transnational criminal gang used women as a lure and worked out of hotels in Medley and near the Miami International Airport, according to police records. Detectives gathered evidence at La Quinta Inn and Suites by Wyndham Miami Airport East, just south of the Miami River, and at the South River Suites in Medley, across the street from a canal that runs across Okeechobee Road. Records show a homicide investigation related to the gang started late last year after a 43-year-old Venezuelan man who lived in Doral turned up dead in his car at about 9:50 a.m. on November 28th near the intersection of Northwest 28th Street and 37th Avenue. Court records show women lured the victim at about 10:20 p.m. on November 27th to La Quinta Inn and Suites, where a group who was in a silver sedan kidnapped him, robbed him, burglarized his apartment, frightened a victim at his apartment, and took his life, according to an arrest warrant.
Then really quick, bro, because we're on this subject, if you could open up another tab, and this so the people know, the Tren de Aragua was so sophisticated in the human smuggling of bringing in other Venezuelans and other members of Tren de Aragua, they finally got Tren de Aragua put sanctioned U.S. government. So now they've been actually saying, like, they basically brought in so much illegal immigration through human smuggling. They literally, bro, were sanctioned earlier this month. This is on July 11th. They finally been hit. They finally got hit with a sanction from the U.S. Department of Treasury's office, dude.
About time. All right, so today the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control sanctioned Tren de Aragua, a Venezuela-based transnational criminal organization that is expanding throughout the Western Hemisphere and engaging in diverse criminal activities such as human smuggling and trafficking, gender-based violence, money laundering, and illicit drug trafficking. Today's designation of Tren de Aragua as a significant transnational criminal organization underscores the escalating threat it poses to American communities, said Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence Brian Nelson. As part of the Biden-Harris administration's efforts to target transnational criminal organizations, we will deploy all tools and authorities against organizations like Tren de Aragua that prey on vulnerable populations to generate revenue, engage in a range of criminal activities across borders, and abuse the U.S. financial system.
And then open up one more tab, dude. And this is the one that put it on national headlines. And then put the forgot her last name. Put the Georgia nursing student murdered.
Oh yeah, what was it? Locke and Riley.
There it is.
Yeah. All right, so
really quick, guys, because I want to break something down in this case really quick. So let me some context here. Why this is really important and why that sanction is important. When it comes to Tren de Aragua and Venezuelans, bro, if a Venezuelan crosses illegally into Texas, so these guys entered into like El Paso, right? Yeah. They entered illegally. Border Patrol apprehends them. They run a background. Because Venezuela won't share anything, we don't know that they're gang members. Obviously, they don't have anything here. This is the first time here. So then they get released into the country with an NTA. That's a notice to appear. So a lot of these guys get released into the U.S.
Yep.
with a future court date. But the thing is
5 years away.
5 years away. So you have that. So this is what happened with these guys, bro. The guy who killed Lincoln Riley, he entered the country illegally and he checked out. He entered through El Paso in April, and he checked out. His brother, I believe, goes into through Eagle Pass, Texas. Background checks out. Now, right. The guy commits a murder. So what happened? So obviously we're gonna go do an investigation. So police went to go look for Jose Ibarra. This is Jose Ibarra, the guy who killed Lincoln Riley. When police, and we have it from our sources too, confirming with the headline. So then when police go to get Jose, they accidentally get his brother. So they start interviewing the brother. And the brother presents them a fake green card, fraudulent. So then obviously they find out that it's fraudulent, and then they find out that he entered the country illegally, and then that he was a member of Tren de Aragua. Both of these guys,
nice.
both of these guys had the ties, had the tattoos, but they find out that they've used fraudulent documents, and then like they both entered the country illegally through Texas. And were released by Border Patrol agents. So obviously, guys, when the border stories is happening, like in 2021, no one thinks this is gonna. You live in Ohio. These people are in Georgia, so you're like, oh yeah, this is never gonna impact me. It's a Texas, Arizona, California thing. And guys like me always try to raise the alarm. No, it's coming. It's coming. No, it's just your problem. Now look at that, bro. Now look. His brother Diego was detained after police department to be showed them fake green card. Doom.
That's fucking insane.
And now, for the first time, dude, Tren de Aragua makes national headlines. National. Now the whole country knows. Now CNN has to cover it.
But it's also along party lines too, in a way, which is so fucking stupid. Which we have more to talk about, but I'm gonna cut the episode there, and we're gonna do a Patreon or YouTube members only episode. I don't like having to do this, guys, but we've been getting demonetized left and right on YouTube. It has affected our reach as well as the show. I cannot pay my bills. I've had to cut some of our editors, and there's really no other way for me to do this. So it is $5 a month. I would really appreciate your support. We have much more to talk about here, so there will be an episode over there for you guys to check out exclusively. We're going to have all of your socials down below, so please go follow Jorge on all socials. Thank you so much for doing this episode, brother. We will definitely do this again for sure, but we're going to do a Patreon episode now, and everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace. Thank you guys for watching the episode. Before you leave, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button on the video. It's a huge help. And also, if you're over on Instagram, be sure to follow the show at Julian Dorey Podcast, or also on my personal page at Julian D. Dorey. Both links are in the description below. Finally, if you'd like to catch up on our latest episodes, use the Julian Dorey Podcast playlist link in the description below. Thank you. To the YouTube reviewers reviewing this episode, Jorge Ventura is a journalist here to discuss the Mexican border and all stories associated with it in a journalistic, educational capacity. We do not show any violent images or drug-related images of any kind on the screen. I also put a disclaimer at the front of this episode that explains all that. We made sure that we followed all policies to make sure that this video is eligible for full monetization as an educational video. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the episode.